Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NFL Week 12. Where would you rather be but joining Fumble Sports on Twitter Spaces, on YouTube, and in the Metaverse as we go through the entire slate of NFL games on this Sunday. So excited to go through every game, talk fantasy, player props, who to bet in each game, totals, everything you need to know for the upcoming week ahead. Appreciate everyone joining us right now in Twitter Space on Twitter at Sports Fumble. Please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube as well at Fumble Sports. Fumble Sports' goal is to democratize sports media. We believe every fan can be on-air talent, so join the conversation, ask questions, bring your take, bring your pick, your analysis. We want to hear from you. That's why we're here. And we start by going to one of our most loyal listeners and contributors. Adam, how are you doing this morning? Did you get your Z's, or were you too excited from a full college football Saturday yesterday?
Yeah, all good here. I know Blease is a happy camper today. Michigan winning that game, I think I'll call it pretty much an upset. Corn didn't really do a whole lot, so I know Blease is pretty happy. But Badgers lost, Axe back to Minnesota. That sucked, but it was a good Thanksgiving day. Detroit, I bought Dallas down to 7, but it was a good Thanksgiving day. Detroit, I bought Dallas down to 7, kind of like we talked about. Lost the under on the under New England. Had a couple player props hit, but yeah, it's been good. All good. How about you?
Thanksgiving was quite the feast, and obviously I'm talking in terms of my sports betting. We hit our Turkey Day parlay, covering with the Lions, covering with the Giants. Thank you, Brian Dayball, for going for those points at the end. Appreciate that, big guy. And of course, covering with the Minnesota Vikings on a money line. What a wild and bizarre Thursday night game that was. I'm curious to know, everyone out there will put out a poll. Hunter Henry, was it a touchdown catch? Was it not a touchdown catch? I'm still curious to know how others see it. I might have biased eyes. I know Adam, given his sway towards Wisconsin, he might have been biased, and we might have been seeing it the same way, thinking that was a touchdown catch. But Hunter Henry denied. The Vikings get the win. They continue to improve in the NFC standings. And it certainly looks, unfortunately, Adam, like your Packers are going to not win the NFC North for the first time in a while, as the Vikings seem to have a lock on it. But I am encouraged to, speaking of Thanksgiving, the Detroit Lions. There's something going on there. I know it was in a loss, but that division is going to get really exciting over the next few years. With Aaron Rodgers' future uncertain, finally some room for the Lions with obviously that young, talented offensive line, what they can do over the coming years. The Bears with Justin Fields, and the Vikings, Justin Jefferson, maybe the best wide receiver in the game. That said, Blease, obviously want to shout you out. Congratulations on your Michigan win yesterday. Have you come down from the high that is the Harbaugh celebration, or are you still in a state of shock and awe after what happened yesterday?
Oh, not shocked in the least. Not, I was really expecting us to hang 50 to 100 on him. Ryan Day is still on third base. I think he's back down to second base at this point. Let's fucking go. I am so hyped. Like, this felt so much better to beat them at their own stadium. There's nothing better than booze in the horseshoe. Let's go.
Love it, Blease. Congratulations. We will graduate from college football Saturday to NFL Sunday as we go through NFL Week 12. I want to start by actually going through the weather reports, giving everyone a bit of weather so they know what to do, whether it's for your gambling picks, for your fantasy plays, if you're considering prop bets, especially when it comes to totals. Points are definitely impacted by weather, so we'll just do a quick round around the NFL weather report. For the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Browns game, looks like there's going to be rain, should be in the lower 50s. For the Bengals and Titans, mostly cloudy, shouldn't have any rain for that 1 p.m. kickoff. Texans at Dolphins, humid, overcast, 85 down in South Beach, but no rain. Bears at Jets in Fox this one's on Fox, but it's at East Rutherford at MetLife Stadium. 51 overcast, but no rain expected. For the Falcons and Commanders, that's going to have rain in Washington, 48 and rainy, so mucky conditions. For the Broncos and Panthers, 62, possibly light rain in that one. For the Ravens at Jaguars, 73 humid, but sunny in Florida. For Chargers Cardinals, don't worry, you're in the dome there in Arizona. For Raiders Seahawks, mostly cloudy, 44 in Seattle. Rams and Chiefs, 47, mostly cloudy, but no rain over Arrowhead. And for Saints 49ers, 61, mostly cloudy. So that's just a bit of a rundown of the weather in case you think some of the rain's going to impact some of the totals. I mentioned that specifically because you think of the Falcons Washington Commanders game. That's one in which we would expect a lot of points, but rain, cold might impact the outcome in that one. So just something to consider as we go through the early 1 p.m. window in this NFL Week 12. I do want to shout out some of our early player props before we go game by game, just because I think it's going to be interesting for a lot of you out there. If you like a player in fantasy, might want to consider putting some money down on a player prop. It's pretty much the same play. You're just banking on a player to have good production. I start with Joe Burrow. I know Jamar Chase, some updated news, Jamar Chase will not play today, but I still believe Joe Burrow will have over 1.5 passing touchdowns. That's going off at minus 150. A bet that might be favorable given how the Tennessee Titans secondary plays against the pass. Another player prop you may want to consider, Mark Andrews anytime touchdown. That's going off at plus 110. He hasn't had a touchdown in weeks. He's rather due, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are not a good defense against tight ends. Another player prop you may want to consider is Michael Carter over 44.5 rushing yards. That's going off at minus 115. Carter and the Jets go up against the Bears. The Bears are not good against the run, especially since Roquan Smith was traded. And given that they'll be going with Kevin White and a much more conservative offense, Michael Carter should get plenty of touches in this one. Speaking of touches, we'll actually go to receptions. Mike Evans over 4.5 receptions in that Bucs-Browns game. He has consistently hit 5 receptions or more for a majority of his games this year. I feel like he'll be targeted 7-8 times and he'll get 5 catches. Feel good about that. It's going off at minus 115. Another one I really like, despite that rain in Washington, Terry McLaurin, over 61.5 receiving yards. That's going off at minus 125. Ever since Taylor Heineke was made the starting quarterback, his production has really come on. Someone to look at, Terry McLaurin today. Another one for you in the 4 p.m. window, Geno Smith, under half an interception. That's going off at minus 115. He doesn't have any interceptions at home this year. Only a couple, and they came on the road, obviously. And the Las Vegas Raiders defense is one of the worst teams in turning over opposing offenses, especially when it comes to interceptions. And another one for you, again, this is impacted by an injury. No Raheem Mostert for the Miami Dolphins. So another player prop I really like in this game, Jeff Wilson Jr., over 97.5 rushing plus receiving yards. That's going off at minus 115. Adam, I know we're going to go through all the games and your game picks, but do you have any player props that you'd like to bring up before we get into all of that?
It's funny. You actually hit on a fair number of them that I have written down. I have Wilson Jr. as well. I have rushing, receiving, and a touchdown. Kyle Allen, anytime interception. That Washington game, look at Gibson over 45 rush yards. Mike White under his passing total. I don't have it written down here this minute, but under his passing yards total. But I think you actually hit a lot of them. I think Miami's wide receivers between Hill and Waddle could be some good plays as well. As far as the Packer game tonight, I do think Green Bay is going to come out and run the football like they have the last couple of weeks and try to minimize possessions for Jalen Hurts. So I think Aaron Jones, I actually like his first half rushing total of 37.5. I think that's a pretty good play, as well as Sanders at 40.5 first half rushing total.
Love it. We'll obviously cover more of these as we go through each game, but those are just a few player props you may want to consider early on this Sunday, especially as once we get injury reports, that'll play into some of those odds and how the public money comes down. So I always like to get player props when they're fresh. I got them last night, trying to deliver you some winning tickets this NFL Week 12. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in the Twitter space as we go through this NFL Week 12. Follow us on Twitter at SportsFumble. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at ButtFumble Sports. We're streaming live on YouTube from our Metaverse studio. bringing sports talk into the metaverse, but Fumble Sports. We believe every fan could be on-air talent, so bring your takes, bring your picks. We want to hear your analysis. If you're in the Twitter space, raise your hand, join the conversation. Would love to hear from you out there. We will start this NFL Sunday by going to Carolina to see the 3-7 Denver Broncos play the 3-8 Carolina Panthers on Fox. Where I saw it, the Broncos were a 1.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 36 points. I'll give some gambling trends, and then we'll go around and break it down. The Broncos are 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 road games. The Panthers are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 games overall. The Broncos are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 meetings with the Panthers. The under is 8-2 in the Broncos' last 10 road games, and the under is 4-1 in the Panthers' last 5 home games. Adam, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on Denver Broncos versus Carolina Panthers?
So this is an interesting game. Sam Darnold obviously starting at quarterback, so another change for the offense that is already struggling to begin with, going up against arguably the best defense in the league in Denver. Denver third in the league, giving up 17.1 yards a game. And I'm just waiting for this team. It's I think you mentioned it earlier in the week, on that Denver is just waiting to be like, you're waiting to see the game out of them. And like when you put your money on Denver, it's like, what am I doing? Putting my money on Denver? But I think this is the game here where I think they can finally get right. Sam Darnold hasn't played in a long time. I don't believe Carolina's going to be able to move the football against Denver. I do believe Denver will win the turnover battle in this game. And I think offensively, Russell Wilson has got to put a good game together somewhere along the way. Obviously, Judy being hurt, and they cut Melvin Gordon, so you lose a couple offensive weapons there. But I just think that Carolina's defense has been playing better. But I just think this could be a spot where Denver can finally start to get rolling offensively a little bit. So I do like Denver minus the 1.5, and I would buy up the under on this one to 37 or 38 and take the under.
Adam's a great follow. Definitely check out what he's putting out there. Everyone in the space, tweet out the space so we can get more in here, join the conversation. But Adam, great analysis. He started out Sam Darnold making the start. It was Baker Mayfield last week. He disappointed against the Ravens. No surprise there given his history. Sam Darnold now making the start. I didn't like DJ Moore early in the week when I thought it was Baker Mayfield. I like DJ Moore a little bit more, no pun intended, with Sam Darnold. He's had better performances with Darnold at quarterback. But do I really think Sam Darnold in his first real appearance of this season is going to step in and play well? I don't. He's going up against right now the second best defense in terms of points allowed in the Broncos, 17.1 points allowed per game. And it's only going to get harder given that, to me, I think Carolina is just lacking, as you said, Adam, kind of a lot of motivation. This season is kind of over for Carolina. And I'm questioning now how this team is going to perform against a good defense. They have nothing to play for. I'm curious to know what's going to happen. That said, one gambling note for you. Denver is 9-1 on the under this season. That's the best in the NFL on unders. Carolina, 7-4 on the under this season. So much like Adam, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is definitely the under. I'm going to buy that up after I get the 1.5. So under 37.5 points in the Broncos-Panthers game, I believe is a great bet. I just don't see a lot of offense in this one, especially because when you think about it, Carolina's defense, not bad, and their offense is just atrocious. So you're kind of getting the benefit of 2 good defenses going up against 2 bad offenses, not a lot of points. Then to Adam's point about who we think is going to win this one, I like Denver on the money line, and I like Denver on a cover. I do think this is going to be more competitive than people think, more because I think the Panthers' defense is just going to limit what Russell Wilson can do. One player prop I do like is Courtland Sutton over total receptions. It's going off at 4.5. I like him to be targeted a lot with Jerry Jeudy, KJ Hamler, both dealing with injury. I'm expecting them both to be out. So I think Courtland Sutton will get a lot of attention. He'll get over his receptions, but I don't see a lot of points. Denver winning by a field goal feels about right in like a 16-13, 14-12, some bizarre score kind of game. But don't be expecting to see this on Red Zone a lot. The only place I actually think this game could bring some fun, I mentioned it on Tuesday. If you're looking to take a long shot on something, a prop bet on a defensive or special teams touchdown in this game, I could see either defense getting a pick six or a strip sack and returning it to the end zone. So if I can get a defensive or special team score in this one, I'd be thrilled. I'd cash a long shot ticket, something definitely you want to consider. Adam, when it comes to a player prop, I mentioned Cortland Sutton a moment ago. Is there any player that you have your eye on?
Not particularly, but I do, from our chat earlier in the week, I do like the defensive touchdown that you brought up. I think that's a very good play in that one for sure.
Appreciate everyone joining us on Twitter Space. If you want to join the conversation, would love to have you in. Meta party vibes, always appreciate you joining. High Fly DeFi, awesome. Appreciate the follow. Taro Hera, thank you for joining us today. Martin Mueller, thank you. Appreciate it. If you want to join the conversation, follow us at Sports Fumble. Raise your hand. Would love to hear from you. And of course, everyone streaming us on YouTube from our Metaverse studio. So wonderful to be able to bring a live show to you from the Metaverse. But Fumble Sports, bringing sports talk into the Metaverse. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Taro coming to us from overseas, an artist I know in this space. So appreciate them just tuning in, and Carol as well. So appreciate the support.
I can't miss Carol. Carol, you are a killer in fantasy. You dominated your league. I know you and Blease went through some craziness with a dictator commissioner. Apologies for that. I know every once in a while we find a Stalin amongst our fantasy owners, which is always disappointing. But Carol is a killer when it comes to fantasy. And of course, Blease and Carol bringing so much into the Web3 space and the Metaverse and NFTs. Definitely check them out. But Fumble Sports appreciates both of you and all that you do to make what we do possible. We will go to the next game. The 5-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers playing the 3-7 Cleveland Browns. This game is on Fox, where I originally saw it. Tampa Bay was a 3-point favorite. The over-under sit at 42 points. Going to give some gambling trends for you, and then we'll go around and break it down. The Bucs are 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings with the Browns. The Browns are 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 home games. The Bucs are 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 games in November. The under is 5-0 in the last 5 meetings between the two teams. And the over is 4-0-1 in the Browns' last 5 home games. Adam, what are your thoughts on this one?
So Tampa Bay's coming off a bye. Cleveland's coming off that tough loss to Buffalo in Detroit. Cleveland's offensively is pretty decent this year. They're 4th overall in total yards, 14th in the pass, and 5th in rush, obviously, with Chubb. Tampa's defense has had some struggles this year, but they have been getting better. They are 5th against the pass, but 16th against the rush. They are allowing 18 points a game, which is much better to the 26.9 allowed by Cleveland. The one thing that stood out to me in this game is that this will be Tampa's first road game since October 23rd. That's a big deal to me. Going to Cleveland, I think Cleveland offensively can move the football and stay in this game. Not necessarily think they're going to win, but I really like Cleveland with the points here to be able to run the ball effectively against Cleveland, limit possessions. And honestly, the way Tampa's offense has been playing, they've been doing the 15-yard and in, right? Brady's been going quick. He's been doing timing offense, 15-yard slants, in and out routes. They really haven't been doing a ton. And Fournette being banged up, I know Giovanni Bernard, I still believe, I'm not sure if he's going to play tonight. I've not seen a confirmation on that. But I think Tampa plays a slow type of offense as well, minimizes possessions on both sides of the football. And I do like Cleveland at home with the points today.
So, Adam, I'm only going to push back on one thing you said. You said that the Bucs haven't played any road games, but they played that game in Germany. So even though that was counted as a home game for the Buccaneers, they did have to travel.
That's true. Yep, that is true. So other than that, they haven't been away from Tampa. But yeah, yep, you are correct.
And that said, that was the last game they played. They're coming off the bye week from that overseas trip. So actually, I would have agreed with you if that game had been played in Tampa Bay. But one of the reasons I feel differently from you on this one is because I think that was the best thing that could have possibly happened to the Buccaneers. One, I think Tom Brady knows how to make use of these kinds of bonding moments for his team, whether it's preseason, training camp, midseason. He understands how important it is for a team to bond and how to galvanize a unit, especially on offense that have been struggling. I think the trip to Germany, they're going to look back on and say it was a turning point for them. Plus, this team gets healthier with the extra rest from the bye week. And I do think Tom Brady got extra time with his wide receivers, and that's been something that's been lacking. Whether it may not just be on the field, it may just be in a film room, it may be in team meetings, but Tom Brady getting in sync with his wide receivers and the offensive line, getting some continuity, I think that is what's going to ultimately make the Bucs a superior team today. I lean towards Tampa Bay in a cover play. I like buying the points, getting Tampa Bay -1.5. One gambling trend that I mentioned a minute ago: the Bucs are 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 games in November. That's a very Tom Brady stat to me. Tom Brady in November and December is a killer. He gets his team right. They're playing their best football that time of year. And I think the Browns are in flux. This is going to be the last game with Jacoby Brissett. Deshaun Watson has been cleared to join the team next week in a bizarre, twist of fate. He'll make his debut against the Houston Texans in Houston. Great scheduling by the NFL. But I think the Browns are just in a soap opera drama of their own making, where the Buccaneers, they're back to 500. They're 1 win away from having the playoffs look like their destiny, and everything's back in front of them. So I really like Tampa Bay in this game. I actually think if I didn't have 2 other games I was crazy about, I would probably add this to my best bets. Mentioning the weather earlier, just bringing it up again, 51 and raining in this one. So I do think it's going to be a sloppy track for these running backs. Bucs are good against the run. Nick Chubb's gonna have to overpower Vita Vea. Whether Vita Vea is hurt or healthy is going to make a big difference. On the other side of the ball, if Myles Garrett can't go, that's a big advantage for Tom Brady, having time in that pocket to be surgical against a really bad Browns defense. So the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Tampa Bay to cover -1.5. I mentioned earlier a player prop that I really like, Mike Evans, over 4.5 receptions. That's going off at -115. Adam, I kick it back to you. What do you got on this game?
Yeah, just a reminder, too, that Jacoby Brissett is probably going to be this last game as Deshaun Watson comes back. So that's something to think about there, too. And the one player prop I do like in this game, and he's covered it 3 of the last 4, is over 4.5 receptions for Amari Cooper. And his total yards is 52.5. He's also covered that 3 of the last 4. So that could be something to look at. But Jacoby Brissett's last game could obviously be something to think about when playing this game.
I certainly think so. I certainly think that Jacoby Brissett being in this last game, I think it's a negative for the team. But to your point, he's played really well with Amari Cooper. I think that's going to obviously benefit any fantasy owners who have Cooper. And if you want to play that in a player prop, I think that's a good one as well. One last note for this one. Rachaad White, the running back of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I think he could have a really good day, whether it's in player prop, in fantasy. I think the Bucs are going to feed him. They're not a good running team, but Rachaad White has shown some promise in the last couple of weeks. I think the Bucs really like him, and they really want to invest some of these carries with Leonard Fournette out into seeing whether White is an option for 2023 or certainly an option for this playoff push. So if you do need a player in a flex position, Rachaad White may be someone you want to consider for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Appreciate everyone joining us in this Twitter space. Follow us on Twitter @SportsFumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube @ButtFumble Sports. We're getting incredible growth on TikTok. Appreciate everyone that's followed us. We are now up to 13,000 followers on TikTok. Just amazing. The kind of growth that we've had over the last few weeks just goes to show what a great audience we have, what great followers we have. We care about sports fans. We want to hear your voice. We want to hear your take. Feel free to join the conversation. We believe every fan can be on-air talent. So follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube @ButtFumble Sports. We're streaming live right now on YouTube, and we'll do a TikTok live from 12 to 1 later this morning. So feel free to join that as well. We move on to the next game in the 1 p.m. window as we go to the 7-3 Baltimore Ravens against the 3-7 Jacksonville Jaguars. This game is on CBS. Where I saw it, Baltimore was a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 43.5 points. Some gambling trends for you before we go around and break it down. The Ravens are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 road games. The underdog is 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings between the Ravens and Jaguars. The home team is 8-2-1 against the spread in the last 11 meetings between the two. The under is 5-2-1 in the last 8 meetings between the two teams, and the under is 6-1 in the Ravens' last 7 games overall. Adam, what analysis do you have for Ravens Jaguars?
So in this game, I don't really care too much for the side in this one, but so I took a little bit more look at the total. In the last 3 games, the rushing yards for Jacksonville, they've been running for 144 yards, which is pretty good. On the flip side of that, though, their defense actually, the last 3 games, has given up 297 yards on the ground. And Buffalo's second in the league in rushing, obviously, with Lamar Jackson and company. So I think there could be a lot of running in this game. The defense for Baltimore, the last 3 for them against the rush, they've only given up 42.7. So that's really, really good. So I think Baltimore can control the clock here, run the football. I think Jacksonville will try to do that in the first half and try to keep the game close, and it might slip away a little bit. But I'm really taking a look at the under here. It's at 44. I think you can buy it up to 45. I think, Baltimore has actually been real good in the turnover department. They're plus 1.5 the last 3 games as well, too. So that could be an extra possession for them. So if I did have a lean on the side, it would be Baltimore. But I just think in this game, Baltimore is going to try to control the clock here, limit possessions. I think Jacksonville's been really struggling on offense with Trevor Lawrence. And I just really like the under in today's Jacksonville-Baltimore game.
Love that pick from Adam. I think the under is a great play in this one. These are 2 teams that really don't have the kind of weapons that we expect. Jacksonville isn't as good at home as you would think. They actually play better on the road. And as for Baltimore, they're dealing with a number of injuries. We'll see who actually gets to start in this one. But earlier in the week on the injury report, Lamar Jackson, Ronnie Staley, Gus Edwards, all listed, and their defense, a number of players listed: Marcus Peters, Kyle Hamilton, Calais Campbell, and Justin Houston. So the Ravens are banged up. That said, one player that wasn't on the injury report, Mark Andrews, I expect him to have a really good game today. I mentioned earlier a player prop that I really like in this one is Mark Andrews. Anytime touchdown, that's going off at plus money. I think that's a good bet. I even would go as far as to parlay that. You can get the anytime touchdown scorer with the game, the winning team. So get Mark Andrews anytime touchdown with a Ravens money line win. I think that's a good plus bet play. That said, as for the money line, as I just mentioned, I like the Ravens on the money line. I would take them to cover if I can buy it down to the right level. The fact that it's going off at minus 3.5, I like that because I'm getting it at -2, but I'd really like it if those odds shifted down and I could get it -1.5. I do think this is going to be more competitive than people think. I say that, and actually public money's been coming down on Jacksonville to cover throughout the week. So I'm interested to see how Trevor Lawrence plays. This is one of those moments, and we're going to find out if Trevor Lawrence is going to start to be on the hot seat for next year because we're getting into the later stage of this season, and he hasn't shown the kind of promise. He was talked about as a Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, one of these can't-miss first overall picks, and he hasn't delivered so far in his NFL career. Time's running out for him. He needs to start delivering. One guy who has shown up this year, Travis Etienne, he's been spectacular, but I am a little concerned. I think he's a good flex play in fantasy. Obviously, if you have him, you're going to start him, but I don't know if he's an RB1 or RB2 this week, only because the Ravens have gotten better on defense ever since acquiring Roquan Smith, especially against the run. So I'm a little hesitant when it comes to Travis Etienne. But as I mentioned, like Mark Andrews on an anytime touchdown, and the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Baltimore on the money line and the under 45 points after you buy 1.5. Adam, whether it's Devin Duvernay, Kenyon Drake, Mark Andrews, are there any players in this one that you like for a player prop?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Mark Andrews plus money in the touchdown is good to have. And you mentioned it before, ETN, going up against this Baltimore defense, like I mentioned, the last 3 games, they've only given up 42 yards on the ground. His over-under rushing total for today is 76.5. I actually would lean towards the under in that. I know he had that 3-game stretch where he went for 114, 156, and 109, but he's been hovering around that 75 number for quite a while. So Kansas City held him to 45 yards last week. So I do actually like to lean the under for Travis Etienne rushing yards today.
Appreciate everyone joining us on this Twitter space. Follow us on Twitter at SportsFumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at ButtFumble Sports. We want to hear from you. Would love to get your takes. Appreciate you joining us, Quincy Rowe. Appreciate iFly DeFi getting in the space. Carol, as always, you're an absolute killer in fantasy. Hope you have a great day. Martin Mueller, Thank you for joining us. Tara O'Hara, honor to have a great artist in the space. And of course, Meta Party Vibes and Bleece. You guys are the absolute best. Thank you so much for joining us. We now go to a game that seems very one-sided in the minds of Vegas, but maybe a good opportunity for bettors out there. The Houston Texans 1-8-1 playing the 7-3 Miami Dolphins. This game on CBS. Miami is a 14-point favorite where we saw it, and the over-under set at 47 points. Some gambling trends for you before we get some analysis. The Texans are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games overall. The Dolphins are 6-1 against the spread in their last 7 games following a bye week. The favorite is 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the Texans and Dolphins. The under is 5-1 in the Texans' last 6 games in November. And the under is 4-1 in the Dolphins' last 5 games. In the last 5 home games. Adam, what are your thoughts on Texans-Dolphins?
So Miami here is coming off a bye, which is always a good thing. Or usually a good thing for teams. It might come out a little bit stale, but I think that's good for them. They were just starting to get rolling there a little bit. They're 4-1 at home, which bodes well for Miami. Houston, obviously, with a tough loss at home against Washington. Starting Kyle Allen today on the road in Miami. Again, double-digit spread. I don't like it. I'm going to stay away from it. The only thing I did with this game, I did a teaser. I put Miami, Kansas City, and San Fran in the teaser play and bought that down 7. So I got Miami, Kansas City at 6.5 and San Fran -2.5 today. It's really the only thing I did with this game. But I think offensively, I think your player props are just stand out as Waddle and Hill. You hit on it before with Jeff Wilson Jr. I think he can be a big game today, especially with Mostert being out and a lot of touches that he will get. Miami's just been putting together. Their defensively has slowly been getting better, but offensively they've really been hitting a stride. The last 3, they're throwing the ball for 322 yards a game. And right now, currently, they're 27th in the league at rushing at 97 yards. But the last 3, they've upped that to 126. And obviously, Wilson Jr. has a lot to do with that. So as far as the spread, it's just too big these days in the NFL. So that's why I just put that one in a teaser to get it down a little bit. I think Miami with the money line is a very smart play here. And as far as the over-under, I have a slight lean to the over just because Houston's defense has been so poor against the rush. They've been so poor at 178 yards a game. So I really think there can be some big plays on offense for Miami, and they give up 23 points a game overall defensively. So I have a slight lean to the over just because what Miami's been doing the last couple weeks offensively has been so good. I don't expect Kyle Allen to really put much out there, maybe 17 points or so. But I think in a game like this, player props on the Miami side of the ball is probably a pretty good option between Waddle, Hill, and Jeff Wilson Jr.
Adam mentioned it. Kyle Allen will be making the start for the Houston Texans with Davis Mills getting benched. Tough day if you're a Stanford Cardinal with Davis Mills getting benched and now their head coach stepping down. So with that said, I have to just admit I'm taking Miami on the money line. That's an easy one. Fold that into parlays. Something I mentioned on Tuesday is to try to fold some of the Thanksgiving Day games into parlays combined with Sunday games, getting Dallas on the money line, getting the Bills on the money line, getting the Vikings on the money line, and pairing it with a game on Sunday. One of those games that I wanted to pair those 3 with was this one because Miami on a money line, that's -800. It's just not worth doing on its own. But if you fold it into some parlays, may get you some extra money in the end. But that said, when it comes to the over-under, Adam, you and I feel differently on this one. I like the under in this game, and I'll tell you why. A couple reasons. One, the under is 4-1 in the Dolphins' last 5 home games. For whatever reason, they're not quite, maybe they're given too much credit at home as a great offense, or maybe they just slow down in the humidity of Miami a little bit. So the under has actually fared well in Dolphin home games. Again, to the Texans, their under has gone off at 5-1 in the last 6 games in November. That just tells me that this team was fighting early in the season, and the kind of war of attrition that is the NFL season is slowly eroding their ability or willingness to fight. So I believe that this game is going to get kind of sloppy at some point in the second half. I think Dameon Pierce, I don't like his player props, his total rushing yards. I don't like any of that today. I think the Dolphins defense is cued in on him, but he's going to get a lot of carries. I think that will slow the game down. Kyle Allen at times has shown flashes, much like a Taylor Heineke or a Minshew. He's one of those, or a Fitzpatrick. He's one of these journeyman backups who will come into a game or make a spot start and all of a sudden he'll zip the ball around for like 250, 280 yards, and will give a dead offense some life. I don't know if I see that entirely today, but I do think that the Texans will cover this 14 points. I'll buy the 1.5 just to get on, just to make it easier on myself. So I'll take Houston plus 15.5. I certainly like Miami on the money line, but I like the under 48.5 points. I think that's actually going to be the play in this one. Whether the Dolphins even want to put all of their guys out there in the fourth quarter, I expect this is going to be a comfortable win for Miami in the second half. In the third quarter, they kind of stretch it. So I could see Tyreek Hill and Waddle actually getting kind of taken out of this game, a few lesser snaps. Adam, does any of what I say mesh with your thinking, or are we just going in two different directions on this one?
Yeah, no, I agree. I can see where you're coming from too. I just think that with Miami and McDaniels are the head coach, I just think he keeps his foot on the gas. So I think when they get into the 30s or the upper 30s, he doesn't seem to slow down. He needs two in there and they throw the football. So that's kind of why I'm leaning to the over a little bit. I think Allen's good enough to muster 14, 17 points, and I think Miami does the heavy lifting on the end, though, but I can certainly see where you're coming from and your view towards the under. I do like Waddle at a plus 120 anytime touchdown player prop as well, too.
I mentioned earlier Jeff Wilson Jr. This Texans defense is terrible against running backs. They're terrible against the run. They're terrible against running backs in general. Jeff Wilson Jr. plus rushing yards and receiving yards as a player prop. Its over-under is set at 97.5 yards. I like him going over that. It's going off at minus 115. That's Jeff Wilson Jr. over 97.5 receiving and rushing yards. Appreciate everyone joining us in the Twitter space. Tyler, such a loyal follower. Quincy, Martin, Carol, iFlyDeFi, Matthew, one of our most loyal followers. Meta Party Vibes, Blease, Adam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Tweet out to others to join the space. If you want to join the conversation, raise your hand. We'll make you a speaker. Would love to hear from you, hear your takes, your analysis, your picks, what fantasy plays you want. If you have a question, feel free to lob it to us. We'd love to hit it out of the park for you today. Appreciate everyone following us on Twitter at Sports Fumble and on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports as we stream live on YouTube from our Metaverse studio, Butt Fumble Sports, bringing sports talk into the Metaverse. We do go to New York now for the 3-8 Chicago Bears against the 6-4 New York Jets. This game is on Fox. Where I see it, New York was a 5.5 point favorite. We'll get to that in a second. The over-under set at 38.5 points. Right now, I am not sponsored by Bovada, so take that with a grain of salt. Bovada, anytime you want to sponsor Butt Fumble Sports, we're here for your money. But Bovada is the sports book that I like to use. I've been using them for years before sports betting became so accessible. So I am a loyal Bovada user. And where I see it, that line for the Jets has moved overnight. It's now going off at Jets -7. I know what the graphic says behind me in our Metaverse studio, but that's what we got it at. So I feel really good about my Jets bet. We'll talk about that come our analysis. But the Jets right now are going off at -7 favorites with Kevin White now at quarterback as opposed to Mike White at quarterback and with Zach Wilson benched after looking like an absolute punk-ass bitch last week. So going to some gambling trends before we go around and break it down with analysis. The Bears are 2-6 against the spread in their last 7 road games. The Jets are 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games following a straight-up loss. The Bears are 5-0-1 against the spread in their last 6 meetings with the Jets. The over is 4-0 in the Bears' last 4 road games, and the under is 4-1 in the Jets' last 5 home games. Adam, what are your thoughts on Bears-Jets?
So I haven't got an official confirmation, and I don't think they have that turned in for another half hour or so about Justin Fields playing in this game. I know he's still questionable on that side of the football. And we talked about earlier in the week, this line was at -4 earlier in the week. We talked about buying it and gambling on the gamble that Fields doesn't play and that Zach Wilson will be benched. And that's exactly what happened, and that's why the line moved. Zach Wilson got benched. Mike White's in there. And the question mark still is on Justin Fields, but that's why that line quickly moved to 7 because Zach Wilson has been so inept at quarterback in this team. I think you mentioned it. He's just been a punk. He hasn't taken any responsibility for the poor play. The defense has been lights out this year. If they had any kind of quarterback on this football team, they'd be even better than they are already. So the fact that they have one with him is astonishing. But I think he's lost the locker room. I think this team wants to play for a different quarterback. I'm not saying Mike White's the guy long term, but he might be short term. So the Jets, obviously, the defense is the strongest position in this game. So getting them earlier in the week is where I was at. Not going to take anything on this game anymore with the uncertainty. I know Fields will play or not play. We'll get that confirmation coming up shortly. But for me, there's just too much in here to stay away. If Fields doesn't play, you're going to put Trevor Siemian in there. So that's just a huge edge to the Jets. So because of Mike White and Trevor Siemian potentially in this game, I'm just going to stay away from it. But I certainly would take a Trevor Siemian interception prop if he does end up playing this football game.
If I was a comedy writer for Fox Sports and their pregame show, I would do a Fox 45 that's like, name that white boy, Mike White or Trevor Siemian, because both of them could literally stand in for one another. It's like the Spider-Man meme where they're both pointing at each other. Just another white boy that you don't know who he is, but he's playing for an NFL team near you. And I think that, unfortunately, that does have me leaning towards the under in this game. I wanted this to be a battle of the quarterbacks drafted last year between Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. I thought that would just provide so many storylines. Did the Jets get the number 2 pick correct? Did the Bears, have they validated, moving up, trading up to get Justin Fields? Both teams kind of looking into their future with these quarterbacks under center. And unfortunately, instead, we'll get a battle of Jag white boys with Trevor Siemian and Mike White. That said, Mike White has already promised Jet fans and head coach Robert Saleh that he is going to play a very conservative game, that he's not going to take chances, that he's just going to deliver the ball underneath when necessary. And I think that tells you how the Jets are going into this game. This is the anti-Zach Wilson game. This is a game in which expect the defense to play really well, expect the offense to have a little bit of life, and expect the quarterback to play as conservatively as possible. For those reasons, I love the Jets on the money line. This is one of the best defenses in the NFL. This Jets team reminds me a lot of the Rex Ryan years, where it's like, if they just had a quarterback, if they just had a good to great quarterback, this team could be dominant because their defense is really strong on all 3 phases. Quinnen Williams up front in the trenches, CJ Mosley at the linebacker position. And if you don't think Sauce Gardner is a star, you're not watching nearly enough Jet games. That dude is a blanket. He takes away a top wide receiver every week. I'm so excited to see his maturity over the next few years. There's a new island in East Rutherford. That said, I love the Jets on the money line. I like the under 40 after I buy the 1.5. I just don't see a lot of points in this game. As for the Jets covering 7, I'm not crazy about that either. Again, the Bears are just a bit more competitive than people think. Even without Justin Fields, they run the ball really well. I know they're going up against a tough Jets defense, like I said. 7 points, I'm not crazy about. So if I did have to play the spread, I might buy the 1.5 and get Bears plus 8.5. But that's not the best bet for this one in the eyes of Butt Fumble Sports. We're going Jets money line and the under 40. Adam, are there any player props you like for this game?
Yeah, I think the only one would be if Trevor Siemian does play. I would like to see him throw an interception and probably under whatever passing yards that they post on him. I think they're going to get behind in this game. He's going to have to throw the football. So I guess we'll have to wait and see who's going to be playing quarterback. But that's the player prop that I would play.
The player prop that I like for this Jets game is Michael Carter. I like him getting over, what did we get that at? I think it's over 44.5 total rushing yards. I want to make sure I confirm that for people. Yeah, over 44.5 rushing yards. I really like that play. I think that he's going to get, because of the conservative nature of this offense today, I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities. Blease, what do you have for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to see what your thoughts are on Zach Wilson coming in at halftime. Maybe he just gets like a first half punishment.
He's not even dressed. He's not even dressed for this
wow.
game. No, they have made it.
Wow.
No, they are sidelining him. He is in a what they call, if you're a little child, we call this a timeout. This is where you have to sit in the corner and you have to think about your actions and you have to think about what you've done and you have to feel really sorry after you pout. But let's be honest, Zach Wilson is in an adult timeout because, and I'm just going to talk about this for one quick second. anytime you claim to be a grown-ass man and you get, 2 yards of offense in a second half of football, and you don't say it's your fault or you don't take responsibility, I'm amazed that, to take prison speak, he wasn't shanked by his defense. Like, if I was a member of that Jets defense, I would be furious with him. We shut down the Patriots in New England. We have a chance to not just advance in the AFC or in the playoff picture, but we get to slay this dragon that has been roasting us for 10 years? And Zach Wilson, you feel no responsibility whatsoever? Other than one great throw at Pro Day, I don't understand why Zach Wilson's as hyped as he is. So I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but Zach Wilson, you're looking down the barrel of your NFL future. Take your time out, get some fucking perspective, because if you don't, you will be back as a quarterback coach at some high school in Utah, like in 5 seconds, bro. Adam, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, the Zach Wilson thing. And what I saw last week with him in the press conference, with him not taking any ownership, is, to me, and even on the field, it doesn't look like he wants to play football. He's got the 1,000-mile stare. I mean, offensively in that game, he had guys that were open. He just missed wide open throws. Now, granted, there weren't 40, 50 yards on the field, which is even worse. 10, 15-yard throws he couldn't even make. But to me, it looks like a guy who just doesn't even want to play football. He's got no energy. He doesn't have any leadership on the field. They show him on the sideline. He's half-assed looking at the iPad at what the defense is doing. To me, it just looks like a guy that just doesn't want to be out there. Now, does he not want to be out there with the Jets? I'm not sure. But to me, it looks like a guy that just doesn't want to play football because, honestly, like you said that Jets defense, this could be a dominant team. This could be, a team that can make a huge push in the AFC if they had a quarterback. And I just don't think he wants to play right now, whether it's for the Jets or football in general.
I'm not usually about TMZ sports. I don't care about people getting divorced. I don't care about people dating whomever. But when the only thing I heard about Zach Wilson in the offseason was about him dating like his friend's mom, dude, you are entering your sophomore year of the NFL. This is a job. You are being judged constantly by a New York marketplace that can drop you so quickly for Bryce Young or some other quarterback in the draft next year. So when I don't hear about you like training with your teammates or doing extra workouts, but the only thing I hear about you is your dating life, you are failing. And to Adam's point, when on the field, in the press conference, every time I see you, you're looking like you're getting caught on candid camera or you're in some photo shoot. Like, you need to be about football. You need to have your head in a tablet or in film all the time. Like, that is, and I'm not going to compare quarterbacks too much, but Mac Jones in the last 2 weeks, look at the kind of progress that dude has made. He clearly went to film. He worked on his mechanics. He got right. I don't know who Mac Jones is dating. I don't know. I don't know where he lives. I don't know what he does in his personal life. All I know is that dude made strides in the last 2 weeks. Zach Wilson, you were out with injury to start the year. Your team played really well without you, actually. You come back, you get some wins. You can feel good about that Buffalo game, but then you took such a step back. And again, it's not just what you do on the field. It's how you conduct yourself. And when you don't take responsibility, man, what a punk-ass bitch. Appreciate your time in the NFL, but I'm sure you're going to be great handing out fries somewhere in a few years. So that's my hot take for the day. Now that we've gotten that venom out, appreciate everyone joining us in our Twitter space. As you definitely follow us on Twitter @SportsFumble, on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube @ButtFumbleSports. Normally our Sunday pregame shows, we keep it very buttoned up and we just go through the gambling trends and we give you odds and we give you picks. But if you want these rants, you can tell Butt Fumble Sports can bring the rants as well. We put them out after every game. We put them out after big events. So if you want those rants, follow us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok. You'll get some more of what you just got a taste of a moment ago about Zach Wilson. We do go to the next game in the 1 p.m. window as the 6-4 Cincinnati Bengals play the 7-3 Tennessee Titans. This game is on CBS. This might be the best game of the entire day. Where I originally saw it, Cincinnati was a 2.5-point favorite. We'll get to that in a moment. The over-under set at 43.5 points. The reason that line has moved, forgive the graphic behind me, is Jamar Chase will not play in this game. Jamar Chase out. They are not ready to bring him back. He did practice this week. There was hope he'd be able to join the Bengals, but he is out for today's game. The Bengals will also be without Joe Mixon. So the Bengals down Joe Mixon and Jamar Chase has brought the betting odds down. The Bengals, where I see it now on Bovada, -1 point favorite. The over-under set at 43 points now. We will give you some gambling trends now that you're up to date on this news. The Bengals 9-2 against the spread in their last 11 road games. The under 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings between the Bengals and Titans. The Bengals are 4-0 against the spread in the last 4 meetings that the two teams have had in Tennessee. Over is 5-2 in the last 7 meetings in Tennessee, and the under is 8-1 in the Titans' last 9 home games. Adam, what are your thoughts on this big game between Bengals and Titans?
Well, this is an interesting line. It opened at 2, went down to 1.5, and went all the way up to 3 at one time. In fact, it went to 3 after the announcement that Mixon was going to be out, and then it came back down. So it was really strange line movement in this game. Tennessee's coming off a couple extra days rest after playing the Packers. They won that Thursday night game against Green Bay. Cincinnati's last 2 games, coming off a win against Carolina where they gave it 21, and a win against Pittsburgh at Pittsburgh that they gave them 30. Now they travel to Tennessee, where this Tennessee pass defense has been pretty bad. The last 3 games have given up 295 yards a game. I know Jamar Chase isn't playing, but I think with Mixon out, P. Ryan's going to be the first option. So I could see Burrow having to do a lot more throwing in this game. And to that point, Tennessee's defense, though, against the run the last 3 games, is only giving up 66 yards a game. So I think this game's all going to land on Burrow. But, man, at home, Vrabel, extra time, get this team prepared. Tennessee's been playing better. Tannehill is limiting his turnovers. And the number that stands out to me is in the last 8 games, Tennessee's 8-0 against the spread. So for these reasons, extra time, at home, a banged-up Cincinnati team, a Tennessee team that's getting better every single week, and I do not bet on Vrabel with extra rest. So I absolutely love Tennessee here with the money line.
If you're not following Adam, he's a great follow. He's got great picks, great analysis. Appreciated him joining us in our shows. The reason we do a show on Tuesday night and on Sunday is at Butt Fumble Sports. We're big believers. Those are 2 opportune moments to take advantage of what Vegas is putting out. I love Tennessee early in the week. I love them even more now that I've got this information about Jamar Chase and Joe Mixon. Unfortunately, if you didn't take the Titans on Tuesday, that line all of a sudden is a little snug. But originally, I got the Titans at +4. That feels like just such a great bet right now. I feel like it's cashed money already in my hands. But Tennessee in this game, I feel really good about even now. Even if I buy them to Tennessee +2.5, I like that play. That said, I'm still a fan of Cincinnati. I think they're turning a corner. Joe Burrow, you saw he got off to a slow start, whether it was the appendectomy, whether it was the lack of training camp, whatever it was. Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, with or without Jamar Chase. I really like him in this game. He's going up against a really good Tennessee run defense and a really bad Titans pass defense. So I think Samaje Perine, I don't expect him to have a good game when it comes to the running game. The Tennessee front is going to be stiff up front. I think it's going to be really tough to run. But when it comes to the passing game, love T. Higgins in this game, like Tyler Boyd, like Hayden Hurst. He's another one I like in this one. I like Joe Burrow over 1.5 passing touchdowns as a player prop. That's a one I put out earlier today that I feel really comfortable about cashing. I also like his over total passing yards. To Adam's point, I think Joe Burrow has a really good game. As for the Titans, mentioned a moment ago, they're 3-1 at home this year. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. Their only losses to AFC opponents this year were to the Bills and to the Chiefs in overtime. Love how the Titans are playing. Love what Mike Vrabel is doing. Ryan Tannehill being back, you can just see the offense clicks, especially on the play action pass, that much more with Tannehill as opposed to Malik Willis. I do have Cincinnati as a money line play. I took that earlier in the week. I'm sharing it because if I put the ticket down, I'm still considering it. I like how Joe Burrow's playing. So I'm keeping Cincinnati as the money line, but definitely the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Tennessee to cover. I got it at +4. Right now it's going off at +2.5. I like it at both. Adam, you mentioned a moment ago you really like Joe Burrow. and you like Samaje Perine, when it comes to the wide receivers in this game, do you like T. Higgins? Do you like Tyler Boyd? And on the other side, will Derrick Henry get over 100 rushing yards in this one?
Yeah, it's interesting. Henry's been held here lately in check, which, I mean, in check is 80, 90 yards a game. So Cincinnati's rush defense is 18th in the league. I think Henry's going to be a big part of this offense and limit possessions. But like I mentioned with Burrow, I think that they're going to, with Perine in there not being a heavy load this year, I think they're going to key on him, make Burrow have to go through the air, which I think Vrabel's going to have the extra time to kind of shore up that secondary that's been pretty porous this year. But I still do think Higgins and Boyd can still get their yards in this game. And don't forget, Tennessee went to Kansas City and had them on the ropes. Like you mentioned, Tennessee has won some pretty good games this year, and they almost beat Kansas City in Kansas City. So I think there's a lot to be said for that, too. Their pass defense hasn't been great, but if you're in a game against Kansas City at Arrowhead, I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Appreciate everyone joining us in the Twitter space. Quincy Rowe, Carol, iFly DeFi, Meta Party Vibes, Tyler, Adam, Blease, and everyone joining us on YouTube as we stream live from our Metaverse studio. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble and on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. Butt Fumble Sports brings sports talk into the Metaverse as we democratize sports media, believing every fan can be on-air talent. Join the conversation. If you're in our Twitter space, raise your hand. We would love to hear from you. And from 12 to 1 today, I'll be on TikTok Live. So join us there as we're going to go through fantasy and some of these player props in depth in that TikTok Live starting at 12 p.m. at Butt Fumble Sports. The final game of the 1 p.m. window that we'll cover on this show, the 5-6 Atlanta Falcons travel to Washington to play the 6-5 Commanders. This game is on Fox. Washington is a 4-point favorite where I see it. The over-under set at 41 points. I mentioned at the very beginning of the show, we went through some weather. There is weather expected for this game, 48 degrees and rainy, so expected to be a sloppy track for this one. Going by quarter, because there's a great website for anyone out there who likes to get their weather reports for NFL games, NFLweather.com. I'm certainly a very big fan of it. There's expected to be rain in every quarter of this game, so wet, sloppy. I know we expected a lot of points given these defenses, but may not work for you given the weather report. Another injury report out there. Bad day if you're a Chase. No Jamar Chase in the Bengals game, and no Chase Young due to illness. He was supposed to make his return this season after having an ACL tear last year, but unfortunately, due to an illness, no Chase Young in this one for the Washington Commanders. Some gambling trends before we go around and break it down. The Falcons are 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 games overall. The Commanders are 5-0-1 against the spread in their last 6 games overall. The road team is 5-0 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the Falcons and Commanders. The under is 5-2 in the Falcons' last 7 games on grass, and the under is 8-2 in the Commanders' last 10 home games. Adam, what's your thought on Falcons Commanders?
So Washington is one of these teams that's just been getting better every single week. Taylor Heineke just wins football games. They play a lot of close games, but that's good. They win those football games. But to me, it's all about the defense in this game. And Washington's defense has just been awesome the last couple of weeks. They've just been bringing a swagger to the party. They play a physical type defense. They'll punch you in the mouth. Now their numbers are starting to show it. They're 5th in the league, giving up 327 total yards, 12th against the pass, 6th against the rush. And now they're down to 12th in the league, giving up 20.3 points a game. So this defense has really been, I think, the key of why Washington has been playing such well football. And in the last 3 games, their turnover is plus 1.5. So that's good too. So they're winning the turnover battle. Offensively, like I mentioned, Heineke, he's just winning football games. But the real reason that I think that Washington is doing such a good job offensively is because of the running backs by committee between Robinson and Gibson. And the last 3 games, they've gone from 116 to 147 a game rushing. That's huge. Their defense and the flip side of the coin to Atlanta's defense to stop that rushing attack. The last 3 games, they've given up 161 yards a game. So Atlanta's rush defense has been super poor. A sloppy game like this, I think, huge advantage to Washington. Washington, to me, has the better defense. And offensively for Atlanta, it's running back by committee between Allgeier, Cordell Patterson, and Mariota. Obviously, Kyle Pitts is out for this game. I'm not sure that really matters, although he is, in my eyes, I think Kyle Pitts is a tremendous football player. But Atlanta really hasn't been using him that great this year. But he is out for this game, so that's one less weapon for Mariota. But the one stat to me that stood out is the last 3 games, Mariota's been under 200 yards passing. And on the road, their last road game that they played at Carolina was an atrocious loss to Carolina. And then they came back home, obviously, and they had a game against the Bears. But I just think Washington's defense with Heineke, the running back by committee with Robinson and Gibson, I just think Washington is a much better football team here, and Atlanta struggles on the road. So I really like Washington minus the points. I would get it down, though. It did open at 3, and it quickly went to 4. I would get it down to 3 in this game just because of the sloppy conditions, but I think Washington is the much better football team here.
Some great analysis from Adam. One of the things he hit on, Falcons aren't a good road team. 1-4 on the road this year. And on a note that really stands out to me, Marcus Mariota sacked 19 times on the road compared to just 7 times at home. I was hoping Chase Young was going to play in this game. That would make me feel even better about Washington. He's out with illness, but I think this is going to be, to the weather report, a sloppy game, hard to throw the ball. Adam mentioned it. There just aren't a lot of weapons for the Falcons to go to. Drake London has kind of disappeared over the last few weeks to me. I had a lot of hope for him early in the year, but Marcus Mariota just isn't enough for me right now. I know he was a cover darling early on, but at this point, I'd like to see Desmond Ridder. I'm curious to know when that finally happens. This game is one of my best bets of the day. We're 16-7 in our best bets. Went 0-2 last week. So we're trying to get back on the right track, but 16-7 with our best bets this year. And the best bet for Butt Fumble Sports, one of the two, is Washington to cover 2.5 after I buy the 1.5. Love this game. Taylor Heineke, ever since he was inserted as the starting quarterback, the offense has been significantly better. Terry McLaurin playing much better football, getting the ball from Taylor Heineke. I like him. Over 61.5 total receiving yards as a player prop. I don't care about the rain in that regard. I think he's going to get plenty of yards in this one against an absolutely dreadful Falcons defense. So Washington minus 2.5 after you buy the 1.5. I like the under in this one, going off of gambling trends and given the weather. I'll buy it up to 42.5, and I'll take the under. But I like Commanders minus 2.5, and I like Terry McLaurin total over his total receiving yards today. Adam, if there's a player prop you like, Cordero Patterson, Drake London, Brian Robinson, any of them, is there anyone that stands out besides Terry McLaurin?
Yeah, I like the McLaurin play, but to me, because that rush defense for Atlanta the last 3 games have been giving up 161 yards on the ground, I just took a look. Robinson and Gibson are both at 50.5. So I think I think both of those could get over the total today, especially with the sloppy conditions and this poor Atlanta rush defense.
Now that we've gone through all the games in the 1 p.m. window, I'm going to go through all my picks. Adam, if you don't mind having your picks ready, we'll do the same with you. We'll go back through and review all of our picks now that we're just coming in at an hour of our show, and that way people can hear what we've covered if they've missed anything. For the Broncos-Panthers game, I like Denver on the money line, Denver on a cover, and the under 37.5 after you buy a 1.5, and a fun prop bet. Anytime touchdown, special teams touchdown by either team. I think a defensive or special team score is going to happen at some point. For Bucks-Browns, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Tampa Bay to cover after you buy a 1.5. That's Tampa Bay minus 1.5. For Ravens-Jaguars, the Butt Fumble Sports pick of the game is Baltimore on the money line and the under 45 after you buy a 1.5. For Texans-Dolphins, the Butt Fumble Sports pick of the game is Miami on the money line and the under 48.5 after you buy a 1.5. And I am considering the Texans covering 15.5 after you buy the points. For Bears-Jets, the Butt Fumble Sports pick of the game is the Jets on the money line and the under after you buy a 1.5. That's Jets money line and the under 40. For Bengals-Titans, the Butt Fumble Sports pick is Cincinnati on the money line tentatively, but Tennessee to cover +4. Feel very confident about that one. Tennessee to cover after you buy the points. Falcons Commanders, we just talked about it. One of our best bets of the day, Washington to cover -2, where we see it after you buy the 1.5, and considering the under. Adam, if you don't mind going through your picks from that 1 p.m. window.
Yeah, so start off, my 2 favorite plays are Tennessee and the money line. and buying the points down in Washington to 3, or in your case, 2.5. Those are my two favorite plays. And a couple others that I really like. I do like Denver -1.5 in Carolina with their defense against Sam Darnold. You and I are opposite on this one, but I do like Cleveland at home, plus the points against Tampa Bay. I'm with you on the under in the Jacksonville game. Expect a lot of running in the low-scoring football game in Jacksonville and Baltimore. Like Miami with the money line as well with you. The points are a little bit too high. And the one player prop I do like in that game is plus money for Jalen Waddle to get a touchdown.
Appreciate everyone joining us in the Twitter space. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble, and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. We're going to stream the show until we cover all the games for this NFL Week 12, and then we'll be jumping into a TikTok Live starting at 12 p.m. and going until kickoff at 1 p.m. But follow us on all of our platforms and join the conversation. Butt Fumble Sports wants to democratize sports media, turn every fan into on-air talent. We want to hear your takes, hear your picks. You hear Adam, the analysis he brings. We believe everyone out there, you watch sports, you've got opinions, you're passionate about this. We'd love to hear from you. Tweet out to others to join the space. Join us on YouTube. Join us in our TikTok Live. Would love to get perspective and analysis from fans out there who want to join the sports media conversation. We now move to the Sunday at 4 p.m. window for this NFL Week 12, and we start with the 5-5 Los Angeles Chargers playing the 4-7 Arizona Cardinals on CBS. The Chargers, where I see it, are a 3-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 48.5 points. Some gambling trends for you before we go around and break it down. The Chargers are 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 games on grass. The Cardinals are 2-9 against the spread in their last 11 home games. The Chargers are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 meetings against the Cardinals. The over is 9-2 in the Chargers' last 11 games following a straight-up loss, and the over is 5-0 in the Cardinals' last 5 games overall. Adam, what are your thoughts for Chargers-Cardinals?
So I believe Kyler Murray will be back to play quarterback for the Cardinals today, and I'm not so sure that's a good thing. Arizona's 1-5 at home, so they really struggle at home. I think the Chargers are a team that's getting healthier. Allen back, and Palmer. I'm not sure if Williams is going to play this week. I don't see him on the injury report, but I know Williams got dinged up again in that game last week, but I believe Allen will play today. And I mentioned this earlier in the week. Joshua Palmer, I think, is just becoming a really solid go-to guy for Justin Herbert and that passing offense, and it's showing. The last 3, they've gone up 266 yards a game passing, so I think that's really good. Arizona is just a team that's just been struggling on both sides of the football field, and like I mentioned, I'm not so sure they're a better team with Kyler Murray at quarterback. The one thing that does have me nervous in this game, though, is the last 3 games, the Chargers' pass defense has actually given up 254 yards a game. That's up from 220, what they normally have. And I know Murray can chuck the ball around because when they do get behind, that's what they do. So that's the one thing that has me a little bit nervous in this game. But because of the coaching on Arizona and the dysfunction I think that they do have in the locker room and it struggles on defense, I think these are 2 teams going in different directions. I think the Cardinals are trending down. I think the Chargers are trending up. So I would buy the points down with the Chargers and take them on the road against Arizona.
An interesting note to preview this game. It came out earlier this week that Sean Payton is interested in the Cardinals and Chargers head coaching position if either team moves on from their current head coach. Really interesting to me because that tells me, one, Sean Payton is absolutely coming back to the NFL, and this time at Fox is just a sabbatical. But also, with young quarterbacks in Arizona and in Los Angeles, these 2 head coaches need this win to keep their job. Things are getting hot for both Brandon Staley and obviously for Cliff Kingsbury. I think Staley is in the better position, but that's more because of the roster that he has right now. You mentioned a moment ago, Adam, with Joshua Palmer. I'll also mention not just Palmer, but DeAndre Carter. I think the best thing that's happened for the Chargers over the last few weeks is with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams being gone, they realize they have even more wide receivers than they knew. This offense is way more explosive at the wide receiver position than I thought even at the beginning of the year. And I thought they had one of the best 1-2 wide receiver combos in the league, but they're very deep. Austin Eckler is a really good running back. They don't use him enough in the red zone, in my opinion, but they use him well in the passing game in between the 20s. But that said, it's this defense that's letting down the Chargers right now. They can't stop a nosebleed. You saw it last week against the Chiefs. This team, ever since J.C. Jackson went down, That's really, to me, when the secondary started giving up big plays. Derwin Jackson is a great safety, but he just can't do enough. He's trying to come to the line of scrimmage. He's trying to play center field. Too many asks of one player. But all that aside, Kyler Murray and the Cardinals, other than the New York Jets, might be my favorite soap opera in the NFL right now. Cliff Kingsbury feels like he's destined to be fired. Kyler Murray rather play Call of Duty than prepare for an NFL week. DeAndre Hopkins might be the most talented wide receiver in the league, and yet I still don't think they throw to him enough. Hollywood Brown is going to return from IR this week, so they're going to add some talent at the wide receiver position. James Conner should have a big day. The Chargers are terrible against the run, but even as I give all of this praise to the Cardinals, I don't believe they're going to win today. I believe in the Chargers. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Chargers on the money line, but also Chargers to cover 1.5 after you buy the 1.5. I think the Chargers on the road, this is a must-win for them. If they're going to stay in the AFC playoff picture and in the hunt for that wild card seed, they have to win this game. I think they will, and I think this actually is ultimately the road that leads to Cliff Kingsbury being fired. I mentioned a moment ago, DeAndre Hopkins. I like him, whether it's total receptions or anytime touchdown or total receiving yards. Adam, any player props for this game that really stand out to you?
Yeah, the two that I'm looking at in this game is I like Justin Herbert plus 1.5, over 1.5 touchdowns in this game against that poor Arizona defense. And then to that point, we hit on Palmer there a little bit, over 56.5 receiving yards. I think he's become Herbert's number one guy, obviously, with the injuries to Allen and Williams. So there's a lot of rapport there. So I'd like the over 1.5 throwing touchdowns for Herbert and over 56.5 for Mr. Palmer.
Appreciate everyone joining us in this Twitter space. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. We move on to the next game in the 4 p.m. window for NFL Week 12. The 3-7 Las Vegas Raiders playing the 6-4 Seattle Seahawks. This game is on CBS. Where I see it, Seattle is a 4-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 47.5 points. Some gambling trends for you. The home team is 7-2 in the last 9 meetings. 7-2 against the spread in the last 9 meetings between the Raiders and Seahawks. The favorite is 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 meetings between the two teams. The Seahawks are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 home games. The under is 7-2 in the Raiders' last 9 road games, and the under is 7-1 in the Seahawks' last 8 games in November. Adam, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Raiders Seahawks?
So Seattle's coming off of a bye, and Las Vegas is coming off that overtime win, that long pass to Devontae Adams to beat Denver. So Las Vegas back home, Seattle a little extra time rest. Las Vegas is 1-5 on the road this year, and Seattle's 3-1 at home. So big edge to Seattle. Obviously, CenturyLink's a very tough place to play. Very loud with the 12th man there. And Seattle is just one of these teams that has been playing way better than expected. I don't think anybody in preseason picked Seattle to be where they are, but this is a big game for them. And you mentioned it earlier in the week, San Francisco, about what an uptick they are on, and they can possibly be the best team in the NFL. So in the division, they're going to need to keep the wins going to keep with San Francisco. Seattle's one of these teams that just kind of plots along. They're 13th in the league in the pass, 13th in the rush. They're 5th in points scored. And they, this Vegas defense has been really, really poor this year. 24th against the pass, 20th against the rush. So I think Seattle offensively is an advantage over defensively Las Vegas. On the other side of the coin, Seattle's defense has been, they've been modest. They're 21st against the pass, 20th against the rush. Nothing special there. So, to me, at home, Seattle controlling the clock. I think they're going to limit possessions for Derek Carr. And honestly, you just don't know what you're going to get out of this Las Vegas team. They played bad for 3 quarters, and then they'll have 1 or 2 plays that get them back in the football game. Obviously, the X factor in this game is going to be Devontae Adams. I love Devontae Adams, obviously, this time in Green Bay. His player prop today is 85.5. I think he is so dynamic. You get him a 5-10-yard pass, he can break it for 20, 30 yards. So I like the over for him today. But I think the one stat that stood out for me, and I mentioned it earlier in the week, is third down conversion for Seattle offensively. They're 19th in the league at 43%. And the flip side of the coin, the Raiders are 24th at 37%. And to my point, Seattle plots along offensively. They get first down. They sustain drives. They eat up clock. So I'd buy the points down in this game to 3 or 2.5. And I really like Seattle. And for that reason, too, of eating up clock and Las Vegas having to score on a big play or two, I can see clock management falling aside here, so I'd like the under in this game as well.
Like you considering the under, I'm there as well. I mentioned a moment ago the under 7-2 in the Raiders' last 9 road games, the under 7-1 in the Seahawks' last 8 games in November. The trends certainly speak to that. The under might be a good play for this one. The Raiders are 1-5 away from Vegas this season. They only got their first win of the year last week against the Broncos. 2 stats that reflect the Raiders' road struggles. Derek Carr has thrown all 5 of his interceptions this year on the road, and Josh Jacobs has scored only 1 of his 7 total rushing touchdowns on the road this year. So the Raiders' offense just isn't nearly as good on the road as it is at home. That doesn't match what Seattle does. Seattle is 3-1 at home this year. They average the 5th most points per game. Geno Smith has only thrown 1 interception at home. That should continue. The Raiders only have 3 picks this season, second fewest in the NFL. I like Geno Smith under half an interception. I think that's a really good player prop. But I mentioned earlier, the Butt Fumble Sports best bets of the day were 16-7 on the season, went 0-2 last week, looking to get back on the winning track this week. I mentioned the Commanders covering was the first one. The second one, Seattle covering -2.5. Love this best bet. Seattle at home, feel great about them. As Adam mentioned, they're coming off the bye week. They played that game in Germany in a tough loss to the Bucs, but they've had time to recover, get healthy. Kenneth Walker III, to me right now, is the offensive rookie of the year. He's right there with Dameon Pierce, but I give him the edge. Geno Smith playing the best football of his NFL career. Pete Carroll, if he's not NFL Coach of the Year, or at least a finalist for it, one of the most impressive jobs he's done in his time in the NFL. I think Seattle is rolling, and they need this game to stay competitive in the NFC West as the 49ers start to gain steam. So I think this is a really important game for Seattle. As for the Raiders, again, I don't trust them on the road, and I think they got the emotional win for Josh McDaniels last week. I think this is a bit of a letdown after the win against the Broncos and that walk-off Devontae Adams touchdown. So I like Seahawks -2.5, one of our best bets of the day. I mentioned my Geno Smith player prop bet. Adam mentioned his Devontae Adams prop bet. Adam, when it comes to Josh Jacobs or Kenneth Walker III, which running back do you think has a better game today?
Well, the one thing that stood out to me too in the Seattle defense is the last 3 games they went from 120 to 140 yards allowed on the ground. So I think that speaks volume right there on which side of the football you need to be playing your running backs. The only thing that does stand out as well, though, is Las Vegas, and maybe because they've been behind and had to throw more. The last 3 games, they've only rushed for 86 yards a game. So, man, it's really a horse apiece between these 2 guys. You have trends in both directions that you can make a case for either one of them.
I now have to officially apologize to everyone who's joining us because, unfortunately, this means I have to talk about the Los Angeles Rams and that mess of a franchise that's going on right now. I have no idea who their starting quarterback is going to be. Hopefully, Adam has some insight about who's going to be under center for the Rams. But the Rams do come into their game against the Kansas City Chiefs with a 3-7 record. The Chiefs are 8-2. This game is on Fox. Where I saw it, the Chiefs are 15.5-point favorites. Unbelievable to think that a team that has Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, and is coached by Sean McVay is a 15.5-point dog, but that's what the Rams are today. The over-under set at 42 points where I see it. I'll give some gambling trends before we'll go around and break it down for you. The Rams are 1-3-1 against the spread in their last 5 road games. The Chiefs are 2-5-1 against the spread in their last 8 games versus a team with a losing record. The under is 5-1 in the Chiefs' last 6 home games. The under is 4-1 in the Rams' last 5 road games, and the under is 4-1 in the Rams' last 5 versus a team with a winning record. Adam, what are your thoughts on Rams Chiefs?
So it looks like Bryce Perkins will be starting at quarterback today for the Rams. He did come in and was 5 for 10 for 64 yards against New Orleans last week. He was sacked 3 times, and he did rush for 5 for 39 yards. So that's who you're going to be getting this week at Kansas City. Again, big number. I'm not a big fan of laying these big numbers in the NFL. The Rams are 1-3 in a row and just a train wreck. Kansas City is 4-1 at home, and it's just been tough for the Rams, right? Their rush D has been really, really good this year, but their pass secondary has been bad. They gave up 242 yards the last 3 games, and against a Kansas City offense that's averaging now 360 yards the last three Mahomes has been putting through the air. That's just a huge number. And the rush defense in the Rams has been allowing 72 yards on the ground, which has been good. But, man, that's a bad pass defense against a really good Kansas City offense. But for the reason of the points, I would probably lean to just playing a lot of Kansas City player props in this one early. But be careful because Kansas City very easily, this game can get out of hand with the Rams. And then if Kansas City starts sitting guys in the second half or in the fourth quarter, you might miss out on those opportunities to get that extra 10 or 15 yards on a receiving or a rushing prop or not. So I would take a look at some anytime touchdowns here. I know Kelsey is going to be a little bit minus money here. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, let me look at the injury report real quick. I do believe Kansas City again at wide receiver is going to be struggling. I think there are some guys that are out at wide receiver. Tony is going to be out this week with a hamstring injury. So nothing different than what they had last week. Again, big number, a lot of points. I'm just going to stay away from this one. If I had to do anything, I'd lean to some offensive player props for Kansas City. But like I said, be careful. If Kansas City runs away, you could miss out on some of those props.
Bryce Perkins. That sounds like a generated player from Madden. I have no idea who Bryce Perkins is. I have no idea about his track record. I had no idea he was a starting quarterback in the NFL. But congratulations, Bryce, on your NFL starting debut for the Los Angeles Rams. Prepared to get absolutely shellacked by the Kansas City Chiefs. For this game, I like Kansas City on the money line. I've been saying that all week. This is a game, like I mentioned, you fold into a parlay with some of the games that if you bet them on Thursday for Thanksgiving, or you pair it with a bunch of games from the 1 p.m. window. But a money line play on this one, I'm sorry, it's where I lean, but it's going off at minus 1,400, so not exactly a great place to put your money. That said, I'm with Adam on the under. I think the under in this is the place to go. Where are the Rams going to get points? Like, where are they going to get points? They just cut their running back in Darrell Henderson. Cooper Kupp is done for the year. Allen Robinson never showed up this year. I just don't know where the Rams are going to get any points. So unless the Chiefs score 44 points, I feel pretty good about 43.5. So I like the under 43.5 in this game. If you want Travis Kelce for an anytime touchdown, go for it. If you want to take Patrick Mahomes over his passing yards total or over total passing touchdowns, I think this is a pad the stats game for the Chiefs. This is like a game you would see in college football before a big rivalry game. There's that cupcake game where they just pad the stats and help everyone in their Heisman case. This is a week to help get Patrick Mahomes the NFL MVP at the end of the year. So Rams, unfortunately, you are going to be the stepping stone for a Chiefs team that is definitely on its way to an AFC West title and potentially the number one seed in the AFC. So I like Kansas City on the money line. I like the under 43.5. I mentioned a couple player props. Adam, is there any player prop in this game that you like?
Yeah, I think anytime touchdown with Kelsey is probably a pretty decent one. And also a rushing touchdown from Mahomes. I'm not sure. I was trying to find the odds in that one. I'm sure that's plus money. But, how many times have we seen Mahomes scamper in from 10 yards out? It happens quite a bit. And offensively moving the ball, they should be in scoring range plenty of times in this game for that to have a chance to happen. So a Mahomes rush touchdown would probably be a good one to look at.
Well, I don't necessarily want to give this out as advice. I am going to be looking at who are the anytime touchdown scorers for the Chiefs who are at long odds. Because given this is a cupcake game and a pad the stats game, you might see Andy Reid just give some random fullback or some random wide receiver or tight end some kind of touchdown play in the red zone where it's a trick play, or it's like, oh no, instead of Kelce going out to the right, we're going to underhand pass it to this offensive lineman. There's going to be something in this game. I know they don't want to necessarily tip their hand on trick plays, but I feel like this is a game in which Andy Reid will show some love to some players that he likes who wouldn't necessarily get the time of day in a bigger, more prime time setting. So unfortunately, this game is kind of a dud, but our next game hopefully delivers a bit more for us as the 4-7 New Orleans Saints travel to San Francisco to play the 6-4 49ers. This game is on Fox. Where I saw it, the 49ers were 9.5-point favorites. The over-under was set at 43 points. Some gambling trends for you. The Saints are 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 meetings with the 49ers. The road team is 5-1 against the spread in the last 6 meetings between the Saints and 49ers. The 49ers are 10-2 against the spread in their last 12 games versus NFC opponents. The over is 6-0 in the last 6 meetings between the two teams in San Francisco, and the under is 5-1 in the 49ers last 6 home games. Adam, what are your thoughts on Saints 49ers?
Well, I think you hit on it last week on the Tuesday show. This San Francisco team is just the most complete team in the league. They really are. They play really good defense. They have now with Christian McCaffrey, if it wasn't dynamic enough with Deebo Samuel, you have Christian McCaffrey and Samuel and Ayuk, and now Kittle made his presence known on Monday night against Arizona. This team on Monday night, everything just looked easy to them. Now, granted, I know Arizona is not a very good football team right now, but this team didn't look like they broke a sweat, and they actually ran Arizona out of the gym. I think coming back home to a New Orleans team that's 1-3 on the road this year. San Francisco is 3-1 at home. New Orleans is very bad against the run. The last 3 games, they've given up 184 yards a game. That's 32nd in the league. I think San Francisco will run the ball down their throat. I don't think the New Orleans will be able to move the ball a ton against San Francisco in this one. Again, it's a big number. I did mention earlier, I had this one in the teaser. I had teased it down to San Francisco -2.5 because I just don't like these spreads 7 or 8. I could very easily see this game a replay of like Arizona. It was a little bit close early, and then San Francisco, because so many offensive weapons that they have, they just move the football at ease. Next thing you know, they're up by 17 points. So I could see a replay of this game. The one thing to take a look at on your player props, it just popped up that Deebo Samuel is questionable with a hamstring injury. So last week, I had Ayuk in the over passing yards and actually lost out on that because they actually really featured Kittle and Deebo a lot in that game. Ayuk was kind of like an innocent bystander to that one. So just as far as player props and fantasy, just make sure that Deebo Samuel is active this week. So because they're so bad against the run, New Orleans, I can certainly see McCaffrey player props being a good bet, although it might be overvalued now later in the week. And I think it's come up 4 or 5 yards in his rushing props. So, but again, you hit on it. This might be the best team in the league. Garoppolo's not making mistakes. They play good defense, and they have just a slew of offensive weapons on this team. But the number is a little bit big. If you could buy it down to 7, I'm not sure what juice would be on that, but that would be the play I would do. Otherwise, I think San Francisco most likely will have an easy win today.
Yeah, unfortunately, to your point, this spread is just too wide for me. I expect San Francisco is going to win, and I expect San Francisco will be impressive in the win. But with that said, 9.5, don't like it, especially because when I buy the 1.5 and I bring it down to 8, I still don't like it. I think San Francisco probably will get around that area, anywhere from 8 to 10. But given where the odds are right now, I'm just not going to play it. One player to keep an eye on in a negative way is Alvin Kamara. He's been dealing with illness, but even when healthy this year, he only has 1 game with 100-plus rushing yards, only 1 rushing touchdown this year. The Saints offense is top 10 in passing yards, bottom 10 in rushing yards. Alvin Kamara, one of the big disappointments of the year. Combine that, he's going up against a San Francisco defense that allows the fewest rushing yards in the NFL. And then on the other side, Adam mentioned it. It's a Pro Bowl roster right now. Samuel, McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk, Mitchell. I mean, Jimmy G has enough weapons to go to where he doesn't have to sweat any play or any opposing defense, any coverage, any blitz. He has someone he can go to who is just superior and can win their matchup. Kyle Shanahan must be just so excited about what he can offer and put out there every game day. The Saints defense allows 24.3 points per game, 8th most in the NFL. I feel really good about the 49ers today. San Francisco money line, fold it into some parlays. I think that's the play for the day. That covers our games in the 4 p.m. window. I see that Matthew joined us. Matthew, really loyal follower of Butt Fumble Sports. Would love to hear your takes. Matthew, do you have any picks for today's game? Any bets you'd like to make? Any analysis you'd like to give for any game, 1 p.m. window or 4 p.m. window?
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I do have a question. What is your record for best bets following an 0-2 weekend of best bets?
Wow. So I love that you brought that up, Matthew. I appreciate that. We have only gone 0-2 twice this year. The following week, we have gone we've gone 2-0. I expect it'll be 4-0 after this week. So it's only happened to us once previous this year. We went 0-2. The following week, we went 2-0. So we usually bounce back pretty well. I feel really good about today's games, in part because I feel like the Washington Commanders at home, -2.5. Really like that play. Seahawks at home, -2.5. So best bets, we've gone 16-7 on the year. But to Matthew's question, the first time we went 0-2 this year, we bounced back with 2-0. So today, I hope I can provide you 2 cashing tickets with our best bets.
I actually knew the answer before I asked it. I just wanted to give you a little shout out.
Appreciate that, Matthew.
I also assume you will go 2-0 today. I'm super pumped about it. One other thing I'll say for this Commanders game is that occasionally you need to look at when teams are playing for something more. Today is the Sean Taylor anniversary. We're already on the Commanders. That makes me like them even more. Sometimes when you have those ulterior motives or those external motivators for the team, it just gives them an extra boost. And I do also agree with you that the Commanders are going to slaughter today. But great work. Looking forward to the rest of the picks.
Appreciate Matthew, Tyler, Carroll, iFly Meta Party Vibes, and Jason Giambi. What a great honor to have Jason Giambi joining us in the space today. Appreciate everyone joining us. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble, and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. Matthew just hit on something that I want to just take a moment to recognize, the anniversary of Sean Taylor's death. Sean Taylor was one of the most feared NFL players and college football players of all time. If you want to see some unbelievable highlights, YouTube his highlights when he was at the U, playing with Ed Reed and arguably the greatest college football team ever assembled, the Miami Dolphins in 2001. But Sean Taylor killed in a home invasion, shot in his own home, in his own bed, and remembered by the Washington football team, the Washington Commanders. I think Dan Snyder is one of the most despicable human beings on the face of the earth, but I'm glad that the Commanders have kept Sean Taylor's legacy alive. This was an unbelievable football player, cut down way too soon. And I know so often we talk about NFL players getting involved in violence or things off the field, and you sometimes cast a doubt on whether it was them, if they were the one in the wrong, if they initiated anything. Sean Taylor was an innocent bystander in this one. He was broken into, his home was broken into, and his life taken too soon. I'm so happy that the 21 decal will be on the Washington helmets today. His daughter has put together an apparel company where all the proceeds go to fighting gun violence in this country, something you definitely want to check out. So honoring number 21, the Washington Commanders at home. We mentioned earlier that game should see some rain, so a sloppy track. But that said, feeling really good about the Washington Commanders. And as always, Matthew, one of our best followers, one of the most loyal listeners that we have. So appreciate you joining us and allowing us to brag about our best bets record from this year. We will talk the Sunday night game, if for no other reason than Adam, as with his fandom of the Packers, should be able to give us some unbelievable analysis on this one. For Sunday Night Football, the 4-7 Green Bay Packers travel to Philadelphia to play the 9-1 Eagles. This game is on NBC. Where I originally saw this game, the Eagles were a 6.5-point favorite. That is the case now. It has stayed true. The over-under set at 46 points. Some gambling trends for you before we go around to break it down. The Packers are just 2-6 against the spread in their last 8 road games. The Eagles are 4-1 against the spread in their last 5 home games. The road team is 5-2 against the spread in the last 7 meetings between the two. And the over is 4-0 in the Eagles' last 4 home games. Adam, what are your thoughts on Packers-Eagles?
So for this game, stick with Philly first. They had a real tough win at Indianapolis, a comeback win. Kind of trying to find the right offense for most of that game, and then it ended up being Jalen Hurts using his legs to really get it done for Philadelphia at Indianapolis. So Philly comes back home now. They did lose Washington 2 weeks earlier. Not much, a little bit of a hangover at Indy, but they did get the job done. This is still a good football team. So coming back home to play the Packers. On Green Bay's side of the football, obviously dealing with injuries again. Bakhtiari, our left tackle, is going to be out for this game. Moving the offensive line around a little bit as well. At the wide receiver position, obviously Dobbs will be out. So it's Lazard, still has a shoulder injury a little bit. Cobb and Watson. Watson obviously is emerging these last 2 weeks to look like the real deal for Green Bay's offense. Defensively for Green Bay, I think this is where the problem lies. Obviously, we know about Rashawn Gary being gone for the year. Stokes as well. Our cornerback is out. But the biggest thing here is Devontae Campbell and Quay Walker are questionable for this game with the lean to them not playing. Those are inside linebackers. That could be a big problem. We're already 25th in the league against the rush. And if we lose both our inside linebackers, that could be a big day for Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts. So for this game, I think 6.5 is a big number. I can see Philadelphia covering this game, but the one play I do like is the under. And the reason I like the under is because Aaron Rodgers is nursing his thumb. Now, whether the word broken this week, I've heard more times my entire life than this week with it. In regards to his thumb, is it a ligament? Is it broken? What is it? So obviously it's an issue for him. So for that reason, the Packers the last couple of weeks have been coming out. They've been trying to play ball control football. They've really been working Jones and Dillon quite a bit. And on this offense, and the defense for just stopped working. Here he is. The defense for Philly is 19th in the league against the rush, so I think that there are some yards to be had there. So I think between Hurts and Miles Sanders, and I think between Aaron Jones and Dillon, I think you're going to see a lot of running in this game. A.J. Brown obviously is still looking to have a breakout game. He's just been kind of mediocre. Devontae Smith actually has really stepped up here lately and has been really decent offensively for them. So I think Philadelphia in a tight game can start to maybe pull away at the end. The one thing I would look at is Green Bay does play this ball control offense, but when they get behind, obviously they have to start throwing the football. So Randall Cobb has been a huge safety net since he's come back from injury for Aaron Rodgers. They've had quite a rapport together, and he had a big game the last couple. So his over-under receiving yards is 32.5. I can see if Green Bay gets behind, he can be a safety net for outlet for Rodgers. And then Watson. Watson's at 40.5 receiving yards. Like I mentioned, the last 2 weeks, I don't think it's false narrative of what this kid can do and what he can be. He's a burner. He's a speedster. I easily can see him getting a 25, 30-yard catch in this game and really take a big chunk out of that over-receiving number. So I do like Watson over-receiving yards. As far as the spread goes, like I said, I could see Philly winning by 7. I'm going to lay off of it. But I do like the under in this game because I think this is going to be a really kind of a hard-fought football game for 3 quarters with a lot of running.
One thing that stood out to me, Aaron Rodgers has thrown 7 interceptions this year. 6 of them have been on the road, and he's going up against one of the best defenses when it comes to interceptions in the NFL, actually the best. The Eagles are tied with the Bills for 13 interceptions. So I like over half an interception for Aaron Rodgers today. I think that's one of the better bets, at least player prop bets, that comes out of the Sunday night football game. As for the game itself, Aaron Rodgers with the broken thumb, I don't know what to make of this. I feel like it's such an Aaron Rodgers move. You've been playing so poorly. Finally, we're ready to kind of put blame on you and have you accept that blame. And, oh, it turns out you have a broken thumb. I feel like this is Aaron Rodgers' way of kind of skirting responsibility. That's just my take on it. I'm sure it is broken, or I'm sure it actually is hurt. I'm not saying it's not. It's just really convenient that now he's coming out and saying it's broken, and that's why he's been playing like crap, because he looked terrible the last few weeks. I would have accepted the excuse, but it just seems like the perfect timing for him to find someone else to place it upon. That said, he doesn't have a 300-yard passing game this year. He's missed a number of throws that we saw, especially we saw last week. He had a number of throws he should have made and didn't. He does have 5 touchdowns to no interceptions in his last 2 games. But again, I feel like on the road against a good defense, he'll make some mistakes tonight. Adam brought it up. I think the running games are going to be really important in this one. That's why I am considering the under as a bet. But the bet I really like more is Philadelphia on the money line. I'd fold it into some parlays from the earlier slate of games and just pair it all together. But I think Philadelphia hasn't played well the last 2 weeks. I think the injury to Dallas Goedert was really important to this team. I've already heard that they've reached out to Rob Gronkowski to try and gauge his interest about joining the team. I don't think that's going to happen, but it speaks to how important the tight end position is in this Eagles offense. The loss of Goddard, at least for the next few weeks, will slow them down. I think that's why they need to rely on their running game more. I think Miles Sanders needs to have a big game. I think Kenneth Gainwell might be a nice player to get some production out of, not from a fantasy or a prop bet standpoint. I'm just purely talking about game analysis. He might be someone who can bring a 1-2 punch with Miles Sanders. Jalen Hurts, again, expect him to scramble out of the pocket, get the most out of his legs. And I think the Packers in this game, to Adam's point, they need to control the clock as best they can, try and keep that Eagles offense on the sidelines, and try and take advantage of what Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon can offer in the running game. That said, I mentioned it a moment ago, the Butt Fumble sports pick for this one is definitely the Eagles on the money line. Blease, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, not so much on this game, but just wanted to touch on some news that came across. Fields is officially out, and then to just bring that up of his pick of Trevor Siemian throwing a pick. I really like that play, and if you wanted to touch on that game with this latest update that he is officially ruled out.
Yeah, now that we've covered all the games for this NFL Sunday, let's go back through. Adam, if you don't mind having your bets for all the games pulled back up, that way we can offer all of them once again to you. I am going to rattle through some of these games, so bear with me. But for the Broncos-Carolina game, the Butt Fumble Sports picks for this one, Denver on the money line, Denver to cover, and the under after you buy the 1.5. I also like a defensive or special teams touchdown as a long shot bet. The Buccaneers and Browns, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is Tampa Bay to cover after you buy the 1.5. For Ravens Jaguars, the Butt Fumble Sports pick is Baltimore on the money line and the under after you buy a 1.5. For Texans Dolphins, the Butt Fumble Sports pick is Dolphins on the money line and the under 48.5 after you buy a 1.5. To Blease's point, for the Trevor Siemian, Mike White game between the Bears and Jets, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is New York on the money line and under 40 points after you buy a 1.5. For Bengals Titans, the Butt Fumble Sports pick is Cincinnati on the money line, but we love Tennessee to cover after you buy the points. One of our two best bets of the day, Falcons Commanders, Butt Fumble Sports loves Washington to cover after you buy the 1.5. In the 4 p.m. window, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for Chargers Cardinals is the Chargers to cover by a 1.5 after you take the points. For Raiders Seahawks, our second best bet of the day, Butt Fumble Sports loves Seattle to cover 2.5 after you buy a 1.5. Rams and Chiefs, not a great game to play. We like Kansas City on the money line if you fold that into parlays. The only bet we like from this one is the under 43.5 after you buy a 1.5. And for Saints 49ers, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one is San Francisco on the money line. And finally, Sunday Night Football, the Butt Fumble Sports pick is Eagles on the money line. Adam, I know you've got a lot to rattle through yourself. I'll let you take it. Sunday at 1 p.m., what you got?
Yeah, I'll run through quick here. Like Denver, their defense to get it done against Sam Darnold, -1.5. I like Cleveland at home, getting the points against Tampa Bay, +4. I like the Baltimore-Jacksonville game, under the total in that one. A lot of running, not a whole lot of offense out of either team. Miami money line, and I do like +120 anytime touchdown for Jalen Waddle in that game. My two favorite plays from the early window are Tennessee and the money line, and along with everybody else, buying the points down with Washington as well. And I just did a quick look. Trevor Siemian's passing yard total is 172.5, which I like the under on that. And his anytime interception is at -158. So you're going to pay some juice for that, but I think that's probably a pretty good chance he's going to throw a pick against that stout Jets defense. In the afternoon window, I like the Chargers buying the points down, -3 or 2.5 in your case. Seattle as well, -3, 2.5 buying the points down. I do like anytime touchdown with Metcalf at +110. I think it could be a decent play. Along with you, Kansas City and San Francisco on the money line, and then Sunday Night Football, expecting a lot of running. And I do like the under in that Green Bay-Philadelphia game.
We also want to give some love to one of our regular contributors who joins us for our Tuesday show, Dennis Teravainen. Dennis has done a great job providing DFS plays this year. Our DFS lineup for this week, Geno Smith is our starting quarterback for $6,000. Jeff Wilson Jr. and Latavius Murray are our two running backs. Michael Pittman, Terry McLaurin, and Chris Godwin are our three wide receivers. At tight end, we're going with Travis Kelce. At flex, we're going with Gerald Everett. And at defense, we're taking the Chiefs' defense and special teams against the Rams, and whoever they're rolling out at quarterback, Bryce, whatever his name is. That is our Butt Fumble Sports DFS lineup for this NFL Week 12. Going to some of our favorite plays from a fantasy standpoint, players we want to see you start this week. Lamar Jackson, he's projected to get 22.3 fantasy points this week, playing a Jaguars defense that is ranked 23rd in fantasy versus quarterbacks. We do like Jalen Hurts playing against a Packers defense that is ranked 8th in fantasy, but we think Jalen Hurts is going to have a bounce-back game after a couple bad weeks. Someone we're not crazy about, though, Ryan Tannehill projected to get only 14.8 fantasy points, playing a Bengals defense that is ranked 4th in fantasy versus quarterbacks. We talked about some running backs you may want to consider in fantasy. Miles Sanders of the Philadelphia Eagles, he's projected to get 11.4 fantasy points, playing a Packers defense that is ranked 27th in fantasy versus running backs and allows 135 rush yards per game. Another running back you may want to consider, Antonio Gibson of the Washington Commanders. He's projected to get 11.7 points, playing a Falcons defense that is ranked 21st in fantasy versus running backs. We mentioned a moment ago, Jeff Wilson Jr. is a running back you may want to consider. He is going off with 11.4 projected fantasy points, playing a Texans defense that allows 178 rush yards per game, by far the most in the NFL, and is ranked last in fantasy versus running backs. Another running back you may want to start this week, James Conner of the Arizona Cardinals. He's projected to get 14.2 fantasy points, playing a Chargers defense that is ranked 30th in fantasy versus running backs. Wide receiver to consider, T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals. He's projected to get 8.7 fantasy points, could get even more now that Jamar Chase isn't going to be playing, while they go up against the Titans defense that is 30th in fantasy versus wide receivers. I mentioned Terry McLaurin as one of my prop bets of the day. He's also someone to consider in fantasy. He's projected to get 10.7 fantasy points, playing a Falcons defense that is ranked 31st in fantasy versus wide receivers. Those are just a few of the players we like in fantasy this week. I mentioned to you at the very beginning of the show, we have some player props that we like as well. Joe Burrow over 1.5 passing touchdowns. Mark Andrews scoring an anytime touchdown. We're getting that at plus money. Michael Carter over 44.5 rushing yards for the Jets. Mike Evans over 4.5 receptions. That's going off at minus 115. I mentioned to you a moment ago, Geno Smith under half an interception. We like that player prop as he's only thrown 1 pick at home this year, and the Raiders only have 3 interceptions as a defense. Cortland Sutton over 4.5 receptions, as he's one of the few healthy targets for Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos. And I've mentioned to you now twice, Jeff Wilson in our DFS and Jeff Wilson in fantasy. I also like Jeff Wilson as a player prop over 97.5 rushing plus receiving yards. That's going off at minus 115. Adam, I know I just threw a lot out there between fantasy and player props. What do you have? Throw anything else at us. Any notes you want to share with us in the final minutes of the show?
Yeah, no, I think everyone pretty much hit down. I think the 2 biggest, strongest plays of the day is Tennessee. You got them earlier in the week. You're looking good at +3 or the money line. Washington in the sloppy game there in FedEx Field. I think obviously a much better team in Washington, a much running game should get it done. And then just a couple props I'll hit on real quick again is Waddle anytime touchdown, +120. I like that. I like Herbert over 1.5 passing touchdowns. I like Palmer over 50.5 receiving yards also for the Chargers. And then touched on it briefly, Christian Watson over 40.5 receiving yards as well tonight.
I know Lope wasn't here today. Lope usually joins us. Unfortunately, he couldn't join, but I know he loves his Miami Dolphins today. Want to give a shout out to Lope. Want to give a shout out to Dennis. He does such a great job with our DFS. Appreciate Adam. Please follow Adam at Spotter AJ, at Spotter SPOTTERAJ. Does such a phenomenal job for us week in, week out. Please follow him. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble. Appreciate all of you joining us in the Twitter space. Tyler to the moon has been such a loyal follower. Appreciate you, Tyler. Carol Molina, Carol X Molina on Twitter. Brilliant artist. Appreciate your support as always, Carol. Good luck in fantasy this week. I Fly DeFi. I won't. Your Twitter handle SVEIKSXXX. Appreciate all that you do and your loyalty to us. I Fly DeFi, great loyal fan of the show. And Meta Party Vibes at Meta Party Vibes, always bringing the vibes in the metaverse. Appreciate all that you do. And of course, Bleece. Couldn't do this without Bleece. At Bleece, BLEACENFT on Twitter. If you're not following Bleece, all that he does, one of the most creative guys you can come across, just does a brilliant job and does all of our camera work and production work in the metaverse. We simply couldn't do this without him. Huge shout out to Bleece. You're the absolute best. Appreciate all of you joining us for this show this morning, NFL Week 12. We hope you learned a lot. We hope you're ready to bet some games, put down some fantasy lineups, and hopefully cash a lot of tickets. Please follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble. We appreciate the support. We love answering questions. We engage throughout the week, so never be shy or hesitant. We want to engage with the audience. We believe every fan can be on-air talent. Every fan is worthy of our time. We never want to make fans feel like number two. That definitely is a pun on the Butt Fumble Sports, but we never feel like fans are number two. We always want you to feel like better than number one. So that said, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. We've been streaming in YouTube from our Metaverse studio. We will continue to as we go to TikTok Live in a couple of minutes, doing a TikTok Live at Butt Fumble Sports. We'll continue this conversation. More bets, player props, fantasy plays. Bring your questions. Bring anything that you want. We're going to engage there for about an hour before kickoff. But I will sign off now. Appreciate everyone joining us for this show. You guys are the absolute best. Again, at Sports Fumble, at Butt Fumble Sports. Follow us, engage with us, and good luck today with your NFL Week 12 bets. And hello, everyone, and welcome to NFL Week 12, the preview with Butt Fumble Sports. We're streaming live on TikTok Live at Butt Fumble Sports, and we're streaming live in the Metaverse on our Metaverse studio, Butt Fumble Sports, bringing sports talk into the Metaverse. We appreciate all of you joining us today as we preview NFL Week 12. So much to get to. If you have questions for your fantasy team, gambling picks, anything that you need to know for NFL Week 12, that's why we're here. Butt Fumble Sports, we want to democratize sports media. We believe everyone out there in the Metaverse on TikTok, you're a sports fan, you've got takes, you've got picks, send them to us, send us questions. If you think you can be on-air talent in sports media, we want to hear from you. We think the difference between you and Stephen A. Smith or Skip Bayless is nothing. We believe you could be just as good. We want to hear from you. Send us demos, send us picks, send us analysis. We believe that you can be on-air talent. Maybe things happened in your life. You had a kid, you had to get a job, you had responsibilities, so you couldn't go work in Bristol at ESPN, or you couldn't go to Fox Sports or CBS Sports. We are building a network for you, a place where you can be heard, you can bring your analysis, your takes, your pick. You can be on-air talent. That's the goal of Butt Fumble Sports. We so appreciate you joining us. Feel free to follow us at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Appreciate all of you joining us in this TikTok Live. We're going to go through the entire slate of NFL games over the next hour and 10 minutes as we prepare for NFL kickoff. If you have questions, fantasy, I'm already seeing a few. Samaje Perine, I don't like for today. I like Devontae Adams. If I had to pick two, I don't know if Juju Smith-Schuster is healthy. Check his status. He was dealing with a concussion over the last week, so be careful about him. Not crazy about Samaje Perine. He's going up against a really good Tennessee Titans run defense. I like the Bengals passing game way more, so for that reason, I like Devontae Adams. I think he's going to play well. I think the Packers defense has shown some holes, and Hurts has definitely got a connection with Smith. So I like Smith of those three players. Check Juju's status. If Juju is healthy, go with Juju, but definitely Devontae Smith is the better play. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live, on the Metaverse as we stream on YouTube. Follow us on at Butt Fumble Sports, at Sports Fumble on Twitter. We want to give you a few player prop bets that we really like for today's games. Terry McLaurin, over 61.5 total receiving yards. That's going off at minus 125. When it comes to Komet or Everett, to the question that we have, we really like Gerald Everett. Check to make sure that he's healthy. But Komet is dealing with a backup quarterback in Trevor Siemian. Not crazy about that, going up against a really good Jets defense. I like Gerald Everett. To answer that question, go with Everett at your tight end position. A player prop bet that we like at the tight end position is Mark Andrews anytime touchdown. He's due for a touchdown, hasn't had one over the last few weeks, and the Jaguars have the 17th best defense against tight ends. Mark Andrews is a player to consider on an anytime touchdown. Another player prop bet you may want to consider going to that Jets game is Michael Carter over 44.5 rushing yards. That's a player prop bet I like. Mike White, the starting quarterback of the Jets, he's already said he's going to be very conservative in this game, isn't going to take a lot of risk. I think that means you're going to see a lot of running game from the New York Jets. I like Michael Carter over 44.5 total rushing yards. Joe Burrow, one player prop bet I like from him, over 1.5 total passing touchdowns. He's going up against a really bad secondary for the Tennessee Titans. I mentioned it a moment ago. I like him, even without Jamar Chase, throwing for over 1.5 passing touchdowns. To a question that we just got in TikTok, Zay Jones, Randall Cobb, or DeAndre Carter, pick two. A bit tricky for me. I really like DeAndre Carter, but check the health status of other wide receivers for the Chargers. I would start DeAndre Carter if Mike Williams isn't able to go or if there's another injury, but he's definitely the fourth mouth that needs to be fed of the wide receivers between Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, and Joshua Palmer. So not crazy about DeAndre Carter. I really like him. I actually think Zay Jones is a nice play. The Ravens don't have a very good passing defense, and I think he'll be the number one target for Trevor Lawrence. And Randall Cobb has been a good play, given that he's the number one target for Aaron Rodgers. Not the number one, but the most reliable, the one he consistently goes to, the one with the most familiarity. So I would lean towards Zay Jones and Randall Cobb, though I love DeAndre Carter. Check to see what the health status is of the other wide receivers for the Los Angeles Chargers. As for Kyler Murray or Jimmy Garoppolo, man, that's a tough one. Kyler Murray coming off a hamstring injury. I think that limits him a little bit in the running game. For that reason alone, I like Jimmy Garoppolo. I think he's going to pass the ball plenty of times, plenty of screen passes to Christian McCaffrey as well. So I'll actually lean towards Jimmy Garoppolo, even though obviously you're getting the rushing yards with Kyler Murray. I think that's going to be a little less today. I know the Los Angeles defense isn't very good, but I lean towards Jimmy G in that quarterback pick. Lockett or Godwin? That's a good question. I like Lockett for this one. The Raiders defense is just dreadful. I think Geno Smith has a good day at home. I lean towards Lockett, though Godwin, I think that's going to be a pretty even one. I think Lockett will probably score a touchdown. That'll be the difference. Mike Williams is out for this game. That elevates the status of DeAndre Carter. Appreciate you putting that out there. With no Mike Williams, I would then lean towards Zay Jones and DeAndre Carter, and I wouldn't start Cobb against that Eagles defense and that secondary. Thank you for bringing that up. With no Mike Williams, I do like DeAndre Carter. A couple other player prop bets for you. I will get to gambling picks in a minute for each game, so bear with us. I like Cortland Sutton over 4.5 receptions. That's going off at -115. Cortland Sutton over 4.5 receptions. Speaking of over 4.5 receptions, I like Mike Williams to get at least 5 catches today. That, again, is also going off at -115. I like under half an interception for Patrick Mahomes. I see that at -120, under half an interception for Mahomes. And I like over 97.5 receiving and rushing yards for Jeff Wilson Jr. To Chase's comment a moment ago, he traded Kyler Murray. I feel like that's a good play. I like DeAndre Hopkins. I don't like Kyler Murray on that team. I know he's getting Hollywood Brown back, but not crazy about it. Start one Bird, Moore, or Terrace Marshall. Man, what kind of league are you in where you need to start these kinds of wide receivers? Of all of them, I'd probably start Marshall, but that is a dreadful situation to be in. I feel bad for you. That must be a loaded league. Must have like 15, 16 players in that league if you're down to that many players. So not crazy about it. But if you've got more questions, feel free to hit us up. We're going to begin in the TikTok live for the next hour as we go through all the games that you need to know. Getting ready for next year, a few of the Buckeyes. Sorry to all those Ohio State fans out there. Tough loss at home last week. But if you're a Michigan fan, happy Sunday morning to you. You are officially in the college football playoff, bearing a win against Purdue in the Big Ten championship. But congratulations, go Blue. Appreciate you, Blease. Thank you for joining us. And congratulations to all those Wolverines out there. And that said, I'm curious to know if you have a pick for who the Heisman's going to be. I have no idea now. Is it going to be Caleb Williams of USC now that CJ Stroud had that disappointing performance yesterday? He wasn't terrible, but didn't obviously deliver the win at home against a rival, may cost him in the Heisman voting. So if you've got a pick for the Heisman, feel free to reach out. Would love to hear it. Let's go to some gambling bets for today's NFL slate of games. Appreciate everyone joining us on this TikTok Live. Follow us on Twitter @SportsFumble. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube @ButtFumbleSports. We're streaming live on YouTube right now from our Metaverse studio. We want to provide you with some cash bets, so feel free to join along, share your picks, your analysis, your bets. Would love to hear from you out there in the Twitter space, on TikTok land, and in the YouTube space as well. With that said, let's start with the first game, the 3-7 Denver Broncos playing the 3-8 Carolina Panthers. Where we originally saw this game, Denver was a 1.5-point favorite. I really like Denver on the money line in this game. I like Denver to cover as well. This is going to be a game between two really good defenses and two really bad offenses. I don't expect a lot of points in this game. The over-under is set at 36 points. I would take the under. I would buy it up, get it to under 37.5 points. I feel like that's the good play. So the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game is Denver on the money line and the under 37.5 points. I also like an anytime defensive or special teams touchdown. I feel there's an opportunity there to cash on a plus bet. These are two sloppy offenses going up against two good defenses. Could see a pick six or a strip sack. Really like it for that reason. Some just storyline notes on this one. The Broncos offense averages the fewest points per game. Russell Wilson has only thrown for 2 touchdowns in a game once this season. I don't expect too many points out of him. But despite the bad numbers, Wilson has been better on the road this year. 6 of his 7 passing touchdowns have come on the road. He's only thrown 2 interceptions while away from Mile High. There are a lot of problems for the Broncos at wide receiver. They have a number of injuries. So I don't feel great about the points, but I certainly feel better about Russell Wilson's ability to get a good production out of the offense on the road. As for the Panthers, Sam Darnold will be the starting quarterback for this one. Don't think that's going to make a difference in the outcome. The Broncos allow the second fewest points in the NFL, just 17.1 points per game. And again, wouldn't be shocked if you saw a defensive score in this game. One last time, the Butt Fumble Sports pick for Broncos Panthers is Denver on the money line, Denver to cover, and the under 37.5 after you buy a 1.5. If you have gambling questions, fantasy questions, player prop questions, feel free to hit us up on this TikTok Live. Feel free to shout us out on YouTube as we stream live on YouTube in our Metaverse studio. Next game we're going to talk about is the 5-5 Tampa Bay Buccaneers going up against the 3-7 Cleveland Browns. This game is on Fox, where I see it. Tampa Bay is a 3-point favorite. The over-under set at 42 points. Tom Brady's offense is averaging just 18.3 points per game, 6th fewest in the NFL. But the Bucs' last game in Germany versus the Seahawks was arguably one of Brady's best of the year. Plus, Tampa Bay is coming off a bye week, facing a Browns defense that allows 26.9 points per game, 3rd most in the NFL. The defining factor to me in this matchup is the injury status of important players. The one that most stands out to me is Vita Vea of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If he's healthy and is able to plug up the running game of the Cleveland Browns, I really like what the Tampa Bay offense can do against the Browns defense. But Chubb is my one concern when it comes to the Browns offense. If Vita Vea is healthy, I think that goes a long way. As for a pick in this game, Butt Fumble Sports pick is definitely Tampa Bay on the cover. We like Tampa Bay -1.5. We're going to buy it down from 3 down to 1.5, but Tampa Bay to cover. Just giving you a little bit of extra analysis on this one, a little bit of context. A weather report for this game, looking at Buccaneers at Browns. There is rain expected in the forecast, 51 degrees and raining. So I'm not crazy about Jacoby Brissett passing the ball. I do think he'll hit up Amari Cooper a number of times. They've had good chemistry. But for the Browns, they're going to focus heavy on the running game. For Tom Brady, the running game really hasn't been there. Leonard Fournette is out with injury. Rachaad White will be the starting running back. If you need a player in fantasy, he could be a good flex option. Rachaad White could be available on a number of waiver wires, so go check that out in your fantasy league. But I certainly like Rachaad White on over under his total rushing yards. I think he will hit the over. I think it's going off in the 40s right now. I think he'll get plenty of touches.
Amari Cooper or Tyler Boyd? That's a great question. I would lean towards Cooper. Man, that's tough. I'd lean towards Cooper because he's the number one wide receiver for Jacoby Brissett. They've had great chemistry. I could see Cooper getting a touchdown. That said, I think Burrow is going to have a really big day. Now that I say Cooper, I could go Boyd. I think you're good in either case, Cooper or Boyd. I'd really like to start both of them. But now that I say it, I will go Boyd. I'll go that way. The Tennessee secondary is really bad, one of the worst in the NFL. Joe Burrow is going to have a big day against that secondary. And with no Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd will be targeted more. So as much as I like Amari Cooper and wanted to go with him a second ago, I'll actually go with Tyler Boyd. So Alex, I'll go Tyler Boyd is my advice for this one. Start Tyler Boyd. Lockett, Boyd, or Allen. Is that Keenan Allen? Jet ski Dave? If it's Keenan Allen, I like Allen because historically his connections with Justin Herbert, they are one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos. Yeah, it's Keenan Allen. I got to go Keenan Allen. Now that he's healthy, he's targeted more than any other wide receiver in the NFL with Justin Herbert over the last 3 years. So I love that combination. I would go with Keenan Allen in that one. That said, Lockett, Boyd, Allen, I all think they're going to have a good day. I don't think you can go wrong. So if you have an opportunity to slip them into your wide receiver slots at multiple, whether it's wide receiver 2 or flex, I think you're going to get a lot out of those 3 players. Clearly, you've got a good lineup. Nice job. Higgins or Hopkins? Wow, another great question. I love T. Higgins in this game. I think T. Higgins could have one of the best fantasy days of any wide receiver. It's hard to go against DeAndre Hopkins, though. Week in, week out, he's just very consistent. Hopkins is going to be targeted a lot. Now that Kyler Murray is definitely starting in this game, DeAndre Hopkins is going to get a lot of attention. He gets thrown to at least 7-8 times a game. I lean towards Higgins because I like the matchup against the Titans secondary more. But again, if these are your options, you can't really go wrong. I lean Higgins, but you're in a great place, Jacob. I think you really can't go wrong with Higgins or Hopkins, though I would say go Higgins if I had to pick between one of the two. Appreciate these fantasy questions. Feel free to continue to hit us up. Follow us on Twitter @SportsFumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube @ButtFumbleSports. For all of those sports fans out there, ButtFumble Sports is a brand new sports content company, a brand new network. We started in August. Our whole goal is to democratize sports media. We know you watch sports, you're passionate about it, you love talking it. Share your takes with us. There's no reason you can't be on-air talent too. The difference between you and the guys you see on TV is nothing. You could do it too. Join us. We're looking for content creators. We want to democratize sports media and turn every fan into on-air talent. Jacob, I love where you're thinking without Jamar Chase and without Joe Mixon. I really like Higgins in this game. Wishing you well in this one. Jet Ski Dave, man, what a loaded collection of wide receivers you have to pick from. Devontae Adams, Boyd, Lockett, Christian Kirk, and Keenan Allen. Pick 3. I feel like I can't go wrong. But if I did have to pick 3, Keenan Allen and Devontae Adams are an easy 1-2 to go with. And then I lean towards Boyd. But, man, Tyler Lockett has a bit of me in there too. So I know I'm giving you 4, but I'd go Devontae Adams. I just have to. He's just too talented. I can't sit him. Keenan Allen, if he's healthy, definitely play him. I'll lean towards Boyd, but Lockett isn't a bad play if you had to go with him. McLaurin or A.J. Brown. I love Terry McLaurin today. I think he could have a monster day. Ever since Taylor Heineke was made the starting quarterback, McLaurin has really emerged as the scary Terry that we knew of him last year. As for A.J. Brown, he's just been very hit or miss this year. When he has a big day, he goes for like 125 yards and multiple touchdowns. But other than that, he kind of averages around 50 yards per game. Given how the Hurts offense has gone without Dallas Goedert, I'm kind of fading A.J. Brown a little bit. He could have a good game, but I think there will be more attention on him without Dallas Goedert. The safeties will shift over, be that kind of extra help over the top against A.J. Brown. Terry McLaurin against one of the worst secondaries in the Falcons. Love Terry McLaurin today. That's an easy one for me, Roland. Continue to hit us up with your fantasy questions. If you have player prop questions, if you have game pick questions, we're here for you. We're going to be here until 1 o'clock on TikTok Live, ButtFumble Sports, giving you all the analysis you need. We love talking to you fans. We're going to continue to give some gambling picks for you as you continue to ask your fantasy questions. The next game in our 1 p.m. window that we're going to break down is the 7-3 Baltimore Ravens against the 3-7 Jacksonville Jaguars. This game is on CBS, where we saw Baltimore was a 3.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 43.5 points. Lamar Jackson, Ronnie Staley, Calais Campbell, Justin Houston, Marcus Peters, and Kyle Hamilton were all listed on the injury report this week. But the one player who wasn't listed was Mark Andrews. Love him today against the Jaguars defense that isn't good against tight ends. For a player prop bet, Mark Andrews anytime touchdown, that's going off at plus money. You can also pair that anytime touchdown scorer with the winning team. Love Mark Andrews anytime touchdown and Baltimore to win because I like Baltimore on the money line. I also like the under 45 points. That's the Butt Fumble Sports pick for this game. Jacob has another question for us. Kenneth Walker or Jonathan Taylor after he drafted Jonathan Taylor too high. Wish you had joined us in our pre-fantasy draft coverage earlier this year. I was telling people, watch out for Taylor. There's a nasty trend. If you're the number one running back the previous season, you usually don't have as good a fantasy year the following year. You usually fall outside actually the top 8, usually fall to the top 12, top 15 in fantasy. So not surprised that Jonathan Taylor hasn't been as strong for fantasy owners as people would think. That said, I love Kenneth Walker today. The Raiders defense is just dreadful. And the Steelers defense with TJ Watt back, I expect them to just be better. I know Jeff Saturday is going to run the ball heavy. If you go with Jonathan Taylor, you're not going to be disappointed. I just think Kenneth Walker is the better play today. But given that Jonathan Taylor is just going to be a dependable option with Jeff Saturday, I don't want to say calling plays, but overseeing the offense and making kind of the last decision as head coach, Jonathan Taylor is going to get plenty of touches. But if I had to pick one of the two, I would go with Kenneth Walker today against the Las Vegas Raiders at home. Appreciate all of you joining us for this NFL Week 12. Another question from Roland. Who should I start, Travis Etienne, Jeff Wilson, or Aaron Jones? This is a no-brainer for me, Roland. Jeff Wilson Jr. He is going up against the worst run defense in the league in the Houston Texans. Travis Etienne could have a good day against the Baltimore Ravens, but the Ravens defense has been better against the run ever since trading for Roquan Smith. As for Aaron Jones, I think he could have a good day as well. I think Jeff Wilson could have a spectacular day. That's the difference for me. Etienne could be good. Jones could be good. Wilson could have the best day of any running back in fantasy today, going up against the worst running defense in the Houston Texans. I also think just because of how the Miami Dolphins want to play this game, I think Wilson's going to get a lot of touches. I actually like his player prop over 97.5 rushing plus receiving yards. That's going off at minus 115. I really like that player prop. No Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is not playing in this game. One of the reasons I really like Jeff Wilson Jr. in that game. Continue to ask your fantasy questions. Can't wait to give you advice. Feel free to reach out if you have player prop bets you want to ask about, any game bets you want to ask about, totals. We're here for all of it. The game we were talking about, Baltimore Ravens at Jacksonville Jaguars. The Butt Fumble Sports pick for this one. Baltimore on the money line. We like the under 45 if you can buy it up. Two gambling trends that support that theory. The under is 5-2-1 in the last 8 meetings between the Ravens and the Jaguars, and the under is 6-1 in the Ravens' last 7 games overall. Their defense is playing much better. They don't have a lot of weapons on offense. We like the under in that Ravens-Jaguars game. Appreciate everyone joining us. Follow us on Twitter at SportsFumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at ButtFumble Sports. ButtFumble Sports is a new sports media company, a network that is focused on giving fans what they want and catering to you. We believe that you can be on-air talent. The difference between you and the people you see on TV is very, very small. You have takes, you watch sports, you have opinions, you make bets, you play fantasy. Reach out to us. We'd love to get your takes. It can be DFS, it can be yearly fantasy, it can be player prop bets, it can be gambling bets. We're here for all of it. If you think you can be on-air talent, reach out to ButtFumble Sports, DM us, hit us with your picks. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to hear from you. We believe you can be on-air talent as well. Maybe things got in the way in your career. You had to get responsibilities, get a job, take care of your family, but you love talking sports and you wish you could do it for a living. Reach out to us. That's why we're here. But Fumble Sports, we want to democratize sports media because we believe every fan can be on-air talent. The next game we're going to talk about from a gambling standpoint is the 1-8-1 Houston Texans going up against the 7-3 Miami Dolphins. This game is on CBS. Where I see it, Miami is a 14-point favorite. The over-under set at 47 points. Just to pick this game really quick before we answer more of your questions in the TikTok Live. For this game, I do like Miami on the money line. I would fold that into some parlays for the day. You're not getting great odds on that. On a money line play, it's minus 800. So fold it into some parlays with some other games that you like. That's the way to bet this game. For the Butt Fumble Sports pick of the game, we like the under 48.5 after you buy a 1.5. Shane, thank you for your question. Boyd, Palmer, or Marquise Brown? Hollywood Brown, I would just wait a week on. I want to see how healthy he is. Usually when a player comes back from injury, I don't stick them right into the starting lineup unless it's a Jamar Chase, someone who I just feel so confident about. Hollywood Brown, I just want to see him back on the field. I'm sure he'll be on a snap count. So I just want to make sure that he's going to deliver production for me before I put him in the starting lineup, especially if you have Boyd and Palmer to play off of. I love Tyler Boyd today. The Bengals passing game is going up against one of the worst passing defenses in the NFL in the Tennessee Titans. I think Joe Burrow is going to have a big day. I love Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd would probably be the player I go with out of these three. But Joshua Palmer has really come on in the last few weeks. No Mike Williams today. I was told earlier, no Mike Williams. Palmer becomes the wide receiver 2 for that Chargers team. I do like Palmer in a flex play. So if you're giving me a start, flex, sit, kind of in a marry, fuck, kill kind of situation, I like my start to be Boyd. I like my flex to be Palmer, and I like my sit to be Hollywood Brown. Good luck, Shane. If you got more questions, feel free to reach out to us at Butt Fumble Sports. The next game we're going to cover in the gambling section for our 1 p.m. window is the 3-8 Chicago Bears going up against the 6-4 New York Jets. We just got some breaking news from this game. It will not, I repeat, will not be Trevor Siemian. Trevor Siemian injured his oblique in warmups. Trevor Siemian will not be playing in this game after an injury, oblique injury to Trevor Siemian. So we swap out one white guy for another white guy. It will be Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman will be starting for the Chicago Bears up against Mike White. It is Mike White against Nathan Peterman with no Trevor Siemian. The odds for this game right now, as I see it on Bovada, again, we are not sponsored by Bovada. It's the sports book I use. If any of the sports book out there want to sponsor Butt Fumble Sports, we would love to take your money. Feel free to reach out to us. But where I see that game actually just got pulled. Bovada has pulled the New York Jets game off the board. So if you got that game before it got pulled, good for you. Nathan Peterman will be making the start. We got that game earlier in the week at -5.5. I actually bought that down, got Jets -4. I love that bet right now. Mike White, definitely the most dependable quarterback featured in this game. If I had known Nathan Peterman was going to be starting, I would have put even more money down. Once that game does reemerge, we will give you gambling odds on it. But again, Nathan Peterman starting for the Chicago Bears, going up against Mike White. Once we have odds on it, we will give it to you. One note for you, the New York Jets are 7-3 on the under this season. That's tied for 4th best under record in the NFL. The under could be another great play between the Bears and the Jets. If you have fantasy questions, gambling questions, player prop bet questions, feel free to reach out to us on this TikTok Live. Follow us on Twitter at SportsFumble. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. We're streaming live on YouTube right now, streaming from our Metaverse studio in YouTube. So check that out. We have graphics. Bleece doing a great job holding us down there. Jacob with another question for us on TikTok Live. Kittle or Njoku? Only reason I'm even asking is because Kittle is facing the Saints defense. Oof, that's a tough one. I lean towards Njoku. When healthy, he's had really good stats this year. He's played well with Jacoby Brissett. I like Njoku in this one. Kittle, the only reason I'm not crazy about him is that the 49ers just have so many weapons that I'm afraid Kittle will get lost in the mix. The only reason he's just not as dependable. Given all the weapons that Kyle Shanahan has to pick from and all the targets that Jimmy G can go to, I think Kittle is just a bit more of a risk, and Njoku is more of a reliable target for Jacoby Brissett. So I lean towards Njoku rather than Kittle, Jacob. The next game we're going to talk about from a gambling standpoint is the 6-4 Cincinnati Bengals going up against the 7-3 Tennessee Titans. A lot of you guys out there have asked about players featured in this game, a lot of wide receivers in your fantasy leagues. Love T. Higgins today. Love Tyler Boyd. No Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase will not be playing in this one, but the Tennessee Titans have one of the worst defenses against the pass in the NFL. Joe Burrow has been coming on of late, so I really like Joe Burrow in this game. A player prop bet that I like is over 1.5 passing touchdowns for Joe Burrow. That is definitely a player prop bet that I like. For this game, Cincinnati is a 2.5-point favorite. At least that's what it was. The line has moved as public money has come down and the Jamar Chase news came in. Cincinnati is now a 1-point favorite. Cincinnati, 1-point favorite. The over-under set at 42.5 points. I love the Tennessee Titans in this game. They're at home. They're coming off a mini bye week, coming off that Thursday night game. Mike Vrabel with extra days to prepare. Love how he is as a head coach coming out of, his time with Bill Belichick. He knows how to get his team ready with extra days of rest. That said, I like the Tennessee Titans to cover this game. I got them earlier in the week at +4. Continuing with our picks for this week, we like the Chargers to cover in that Chargers-Cardinals game. That's Chargers -1.5. Really like it. Going to the next game in the 4 p.m. window, the 3-7 Las Vegas Raiders playing the 6-4 Seattle Seahawks. I mentioned a moment ago, Butt Fumble Sports is 16-7 this year on our best bets, and this is one of our 2 best bets of the day. Our first one was the Washington Commanders to cover. I also, and this goes to your question, Ranger, I love the Seattle Seahawks today. The Seahawks to cover is one of my 2 best bets of the day. Buy that down. Get Seahawks -2.5. Try to get it under that field goal. I love it for -2.5 if you can. But the Seahawks at home, I feel, is a great cover play. And let me give you some reasons why. The Raiders are 1-5 away from Vegas this season after just getting their first win at home last week, or their first road win last week against the Broncos. 2 stats that really stand out to me that speak to why the Raiders are struggling. Derek Carr has thrown all 5 of his interceptions this year on the road, and Josh Jacobs, the running back of the Raiders, of his 7 total rushing touchdowns, he only has 1 on the road this season. The Seahawks at home are 3-1 this year. Geno Smith has only thrown 1 pick at home. The Raiders only have 3 interceptions on the year. So a player prop bet that I really like is Geno Smith under half an interception. Really like that player prop bet. As for the Butt Fumble Sports pick of the game, our favorite bet of the day, Seattle Seahawks -2.5 after I buy 1.5. Love Seattle to cover, one of our 2 best bets of the day. Appreciate all of you joining us in this TikTok live. Please bring your fantasy football questions, your gambling questions, player prop bet questions. We're here to answer all of it, taking you up into the 1 p.m. kickoff for NFL Week 12. Butt Fumble Sports, democratizing sports media. We love talking to fans. We believe you can be on-air talent. So if you love talking sports, doesn't just have to be football, hit us up at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. We believe you can be on-air talent. Show us what you got. We want to hear from you. Can't wait to share some of these thoughts with you over the coming days and weeks. The next game that we have in this 4 p.m. window for NFL Week 12 is the 3-7 Los Angeles Rams against the Kansas City Chiefs, who come in with an 8-2 record and are the number 1 seed in the AFC. This game is on Fox and is a 15.5-point spread. We won't spend too much time on it. The Kansas City Chiefs are a major favorite. I don't even know who the quarterback of the Rams is, Bryce something. He's just another white boy to me. I don't even know if he's a white boy, so I'm just assuming he is, but I have really no idea who's going to be the starting quarterback of the Rams. For that reason alone, I love the Kansas City Chiefs on the money line. I like Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown. That's been a consistent bet. You might want to do the parlay. That's anytime touchdown plus the team to win, and take Travis Kelce, anytime touchdown, and the parlay with the Chiefs winning. I like the Chiefs on the money line. I'm going to fold that into some parlays because it's not great on odds. But the bet I really like in this, the Butt Fumble Sports pick of this game, is the under 43.5 points after I buy it up from 42. I just don't see where the Rams are going to get offense. They cut their running back this week. Darrell Henderson, now a free agent. They don't have Cooper Kupp. They don't have Matthew Stafford. Allen Robinson has been MIA almost the entire year. I just don't see where Sean McVay and the Rams offense are going to get points. And do I really think the Chiefs are going to score 40 points on the Rams? No, because the Rams have just enough talent on defense. I like the Chiefs on the money line, and I like the under 43.5 points. Appreciate all of you joining us in the TikTok live and on YouTube as we stream from our Metaverse studio. Butt Fumble Sports brings sports talk into the Metaverse. Our last game for the 4 p.m. window is the 4-7 New Orleans Saints playing the 6-4 San Francisco 49ers. This game is on Fox. The over-under is 43 points, and the 49ers are a 9.5-point favorite. I like San Francisco on the money line for this one. Again, this is one in which I would fold it into some parlays. I think there are a lot of opportunities in these 4 p.m. windows to get a heavy favorite, parlay it with some games that you like from the 1 p.m. window, and get your odds in a better place so you can cash on some of these tickets. I do like San Francisco to cover. We talked a moment ago, George Kittle, is he going to get a lot of touches? I like him in one aspect. I think he could get a touchdown maybe. I certainly like him being targeted 3 or 4 times. But is he going to get enough production where you can start him compared to someone like David Njoku? I would say no. Just too many weapons for Jimmy G and the 49ers offense. They got a lot of mouths to feed. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, Elijah Mitchell. Just too many offensive weapons to speak of. And for that reason, I'm kind of fading George Kittle a little bit. I know he had a big day last week against the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals are one of the worst teams in the NFL against the tight end position. I don't feel the same way this week. I think the Saints will be bad, but not horrific against the tight end position. So for that reason, Kittle isn't one of my favorite plays of the week. But I do like San Francisco on the money line. As for Jimmy G, I could see him throwing over 1.5 touchdowns in this one. That might be a player prop you want to consider. We will cover Sunday Night Football now as the 4-7 Green Bay Packers play the 9-1 Philadelphia Eagles. This game, of course, is on NBC. Philadelphia is a 6.5-point favorite, and the over-under is set at 46 points. Aaron Rodgers revealed earlier this week that he's been playing with a broken thumb, which could explain his play. He doesn't have a 300-yard passing game this year. He missed a number of throws last game against the Titans. He has 5 touchdowns and no interceptions in his last 2 games, but he's certainly not the MVP Aaron Rodgers that we've come to expect. For that reason and more, I really like the Eagles in this one. They haven't played well the last 2 weeks, but I really like what they're capable of doing. Jacob, with a question for you. Where do you get all this information about teams betting worst against certain positions? Well, a couple things for you. There are a couple of great follows out there on Twitter. I'll first mention myself. At Sports Fumble, we put out a lot of these odds and a lot of these gambling trends for you. So definitely give us a follow on Twitter. You'll also see one of the people that I follow. His name is John Ewing, E-W-I-N-G. He doesn't know that I'm a follower or a fan, but he does a great job. He works for one of the sports books, does a great job of putting out some of these gambling notes, how teams have done against the over and the under, how they've done as favorites. Great place to look. There are also a number of websites you might want to check out. OddsShark is another one. OddsShark is a great website to check out. Another website that I really like is Covers.com. Covers.com, one of the better websites out there for gambling trends. Great place to look if you're looking to get trends throughout the week. I'm someone who really likes looking at gambling trends. I think they reveal a lot about the matchups when you strip off the brand name and you just see about how they performed under certain situations, against certain opponents, certain weather, certain terrain, field surfaces. I really like looking at their trends. So Covers.com is definitely a place I'd look to get some of your information for gambling. I do want to kind of go off on a tangent a little bit about Aaron Rodgers for 1 second. I feel like this is a total cop-out by Aaron Rodgers and how he's talking about this broken thumb. I'm not crazy about how he's played throughout the year, but this is the first I'm hearing of this injury. I wish Aaron Rodgers just took more blame at times. I wish he took more responsibility. He's played poorly the last few weeks. He's the one that missed some throws against the Titans that easily could have gotten the Packers a win. I know the broken thumb must be painful, difficult to play with, but I feel like every time Aaron Rodgers is put under the spotlight, he's talking about why the front office didn't get him weapons, why his wide receivers are making drops, why the offensive line is disappointing. It's never Aaron Rodgers' fault. I wish he just took blame for once. This broken thumb, I'm sure it's contributing to his lack of production, but I wish he just said, broken thumb or not, this is on me. I'm underperforming. I'm Aaron Rodgers. I'm supposed to be an MVP, and I'm not playing like one this year. He certainly hasn't stepped up to the podium and performed that way or spoken that way. Another reason to kind of fade Aaron Rodgers as a person. Avery asking Broncos or Panthers. From a gambling standpoint, boy, do I like the Broncos today. The Broncos are right now 1.5-point favorites where I see it. I like them on the money line, and I like them to cover. I think that's a great bet. The Broncos on the road are actually better this year than you would think. Russell Wilson, 6 of his 7 passing touchdowns have come on the road this year, only 2 interceptions away from Mile High. I think he's going to have an okay day. The Panthers defense is pretty good, but the Broncos defense, one of the best in the NFL. I think they're going to shut down Sam Darnold. I think the running game of the Panthers is going to have a tough time as well. I really like the Panthers in this game to win, to cover, but my best bet from this game is the under 37.5 after you buy 1.5 points. Music Studio 78, Cowboys versus Colts. I'm assuming that would be who would win, right now it's got to be the Cowboys. I mean, the Colts, I know they've been a nice story since Jeff Saturday was hired. I expect them to continue to run the ball well. But the Cowboys right now are one of the best teams in the NFC and certainly one of the best teams in the NFL. The way they've been playing the last 2 weeks, really impressive. Dak Prescott is starting to turn that corner, getting more comfortable with his receivers. Tony Pollard and Zeke look absolutely spectacular together. I think this is the best Zeke has looked in years. Tony Pollard is one of my favorite running backs in the NFL right now. I think you're seeing this Cowboys offensive line finally starting to perform like we've come to expect over the last few years. And finally, the defense. The Cowboys defense is good. They looked good in the second half against the Giants. So if the Cowboys and the Colts were to play, I would take the Cowboys to win. As a fun fantasy matchup between two teams that aren't actually playing on this NFL Sunday. Appreciate all of you joining us on this TikTok Live and as we stream on YouTube from our Metaverse studio. Butt Fumble Sports, bringing sports talk into the Metaverse as we stream live. Ask your questions, whether it's fantasy, gambling, player prop bets. We're here for you. We love talking sports, and we know you do too. Butt Fumble Sports wants to democratize sports media. We believe your takes, your analysis, your picks are just as good as the guys on TV. If you've got questions or you believe you could be on-air talent, reach out to us, DM us at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at Butt Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you think you could be on-air talent, we believe you. Show us what you got, and we'll give you the opportunity. I have a really big question that I've been asking a lot of NFL fans. Who has the current record for longest throw in the NFL? The longest throw in the NFL. Good question from Music Studio 78, a trivia question. Now, this is the longest throw, Music Studio 78, the longest throw in the air or the longest pass of the season, yards after catch included. Give us some context. I'd love to be able to participate in this trivia question. I'm going to guess. The thing is, I'm assuming it is a trick question. I'll take a guess, and I'll say Josh Allen on that touchdown pass that he had to Gabe Davis earlier in the year. I don't know what the yardage on the pass in the air was, but I think the actual play itself went for over 90 yards. So I'm going to guess Josh Allen has the longest pass of the year, longest passing touchdown of the year. Music Studio 78, feel free to tell me I'm wrong or give me an answer on that. But that's going to be my guess is Josh Allen. Appreciate all of you joining us. It's second for longest. You're correct. So I didn't get it right. That's the second longest. Is that what you're saying? Either I got it right and I feel great, or I got second and I feel really good because I almost got it right. Feel free to put the correct answer in there. But appreciate it. Music Studio 78. I hope I'm impressing you with my football knowledge while we're handing out some gambling winners, some fantasy plays, some player prop bets. Appreciate all of you joining us on TikTok Live, on YouTube as we stream from our Metaverse studio. Butt Fumble Sports. We love talking sports. We love talking football. We're going to do this every Sunday. Every Tuesday, we do a Twitter space at Sports Fumble. We believe Tuesday is one of the best days to get in on gambling odds. It's when Vegas puts out the early lines. There's a lot of opportunities there before public money comes down. So join us 7 p.m. on Tuesdays at Sports Fumble. And of course, every Sunday from 10 to noon, we do a Twitter space on YouTube. We go through every game, analysis, picks, everything at Sports Fumble. And then from 12 to 1 every Sunday, we're going to be doing this TikTok Live, allowing you to ask questions, set your fantasy team, ask us for advice on who to gamble on, what player prop bets you like or we like. So join us wherever you see us. Butt Fumble Sports is here for you. We want to give football fans what they ask for. Check out our content, whether it's fantasy, we put out waiver wire plays, start flex and sit plays, gambling plays, DFS. In fact, let me get to our DFS lineup in case those of you out there like playing DFS. This is the Butt Fumble Sports DFS lineup for NFL Week 12. We like Geno Smith at quarterback. We're getting him at $6,000. One of my favorite players today is Jeff Wilson Jr. at running back. We're getting him at $5,900. Latavius Murray, the running back for the Panthers, he's going to be our RB2 at 5,000, a nice cheap play. Our 3 wide receivers are Michael Pittman, Terry McLaurin, and Chris Godwin. Our tight end is Travis Kelce. Like I mentioned, I like him on an anytime touchdown. Travis Kelce is our tight end in our DFS lineup. Gerald Everett's going to be our flex play. I know he's a tight end. He's been banged up the last few weeks, but Arizona, as I mentioned earlier, one of the worst teams in the NFL versus tight ends. Gerald Everett's our flex in DFS. And our defense and special teams for our DFS lineup for NFL Week 12 is the Chiefs. The Chiefs going up against the third-string quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams. We like the Chiefs. So again, DFS lineup, it's Geno Smith at quarterback, Jeff Wilson and Latavius Murray at running back, Pittman, McLaurin, and Godwin at wide receiver, Kelce at tight end, Everett at the flex, and the Chiefs as the tight end special teams for our DFS lineup. Appreciate all of you joining us on our TikTok Live and in the Metaverse as we stream live on YouTube. We've gone through now all the games except the Sunday night game. I just wanted to make sure I gave that out. I have Eagles on the money line. Eagles on the money line is the Sunday night play. Let's get to some player prop bets for you. I know we mentioned it throughout the show, but let's make sure that you got them because these should be some cash tickets for you. Love Terry McLaurin over 61.5 receiving yards. That's going off at -125. Atlanta allows 266 pass yards per game, 4th worst in the NFL. And McLaurin has 2 100-plus yard receiving games with Taylor Heineke at quarterback. I like Terry McLaurin over 61.5 total receiving yards. At tight end, Mark Andrews, anytime touchdown. I'm getting that at +110. Not only is he due, he hasn't had too many receiving touchdowns this year, but the Jaguars are the 17th best defense against tight ends. I like Mark Andrews today, anytime touchdown at +110. You also may want to consider the parlay, anytime touchdown, and the winning team. Mark Andrews, anytime touchdown, and the Ravens to win. That'll give you plus money. Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes today is the question from Music Studio 78. Tom Brady is going to have a good day against the Cleveland Browns, but I have to go Patrick Mahomes against the Rams. Patrick Mahomes is in a cupcake game, as we would call it in college football. He's going up against a Rams team that has a third-string quarterback starting, and frankly, is just out of the season. The Rams season is over, so I don't know how much fight we'll see from the LA team. This is a pad your stats game for the Chiefs and Mahomes. I expect him to get at least 2 touchdowns, if not 3. I think this is going to be another way he can pad his stats for his MVP argument. I like Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady will have a good day. Patrick Mahomes could have a great day. I'll go Patrick Mahomes, Music Studio 78. If you've got fantasy questions, continue to reach out to us. We've got 16 minutes left. 16 minutes left before NFL Sunday, 1 p.m. kickoff. Appreciate everyone joining us on TikTok Live, everyone who's joining us on YouTube as we stream from our Metaverse studio. Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Fumble Sports, and follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble. It's pouring for Ravens Jaguars. Any impact on your pick? I didn't see the rain in that game playing as big a factor. I thought it was going to be humid. I saw humid and mostly cloudy in the weather report. Let's see what it's. By the way, someone asked earlier, what's a website that I really like for gambling? A website that I freaking love, NFLweather.com. NFLweather.com gives you the weather report for every NFL game around the league, including the weather for kickoff in every quarter of the game. NFLweather.com, another great website to use as you put together your fantasy lineups, put together player prop bets, and obviously make gambling picks for the day. What I'm seeing in that in that Ravens-Jaguars game is it's humid and overcast. There is expected to be rain in the first half, but it's supposed to clear up, mostly cloudy, but some sun in the second half. So I don't think rain's going to play a huge factor in this one. I like the under anyways in this game. I just like the under that much more that rain may play a factor early on. Brody asking, should I start Najee Harris or Miles Sanders? I like both players today, but I'm going to lean towards Miles Sanders. I think Miles Sanders is the better play between the two, though I think both players could have a good day. Miles Sanders is going to be the player that I'd recommend. ETN or Rachaad White. This is a tough one for me. I love Rachaad White today. He's going to be the starting quarterback with Leonard Fournette out. I think Rachaad White is the better play. ETN obviously has been the most dynamic part of the Jaguars offense, but the Ravens have been better against the run the last few weeks. Ever since trading for Roquan Smith, they're better against the running game. I think ETN has a good game, but I'd actually go Rachaad White. Rachaad White is the player I'd go with. Of course, I can shout you out NH8006, NH8006, or NH8006. I'll always shout you guys out. Appreciate everyone joining us on TikTok Live, everyone who's joining us on YouTube as we stream live from our Metaverse studios. But Fumble Sports, we want to democratize sports media. We believe you out there could be sports on-air talent. If you've got picks, fantasy plays, gambling analysis, we'd love to hear from you. DM us, reach out. If you think you can be sports on-air talent, we're here for you. We can give you that opportunity. Who should I sit between White, ETN, and Wilson? Oof, tough. Very tough. I probably lean towards ETN, but I really like all three. Look, Jeff Wilson Jr. is a lock. He, to me, is the James. Appreciate the question, James Hartford. I'd absolutely start Wilson. That's a guarantee. Between White and ETN, as you just heard from the last question I answered, I'd lean towards White, but for me, all three players could have a good day. We got another user question here. User 174832483. Sounds like a code name. Pierce or Pacheco. So Pacheco is going up against one of the better run defenses in the NFL. I know the Rams aren't having a good year, but they are good up front. Aaron Donald obviously leading the way. Pierce, I don't expect him to have a great game today, but between the two, I do like Pierce over Pacheco. The other one, Donovan Peoples-Jones or Trayvon Burks. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones in the last game, the last start for Jacoby Brissett of the year. Deshaun Watson will be starting next week. I like Donovan Peoples-Jones this week. Any trade targets that could have good playoff matchups? Let me quickly pull up the schedule over the coming weeks, and let me see if I can give you some analysis on that, James. Appreciate these questions. Appreciate everyone following us. Quickly, let me get to Jay Crispy Santo. Who would you start, ETN or Connor? I'm going with Connor. Connor is going up against one of the worst run defenses in the NFL in the Los Angeles Chargers. Connor is the play over ETN, Jake. Your opinion, do you think the Cowboys probably would go to the Super Bowl on the roll right now? The Cowboys are a really good team right now. They're playing their best football, and I'm a big believer that you want to play your best football end of November and into December. Cowboys are certainly doing that. I'm seeing it from Dak Prescott. To me, the big difference is going to be, are they going to get Odell Beckham Jr.? If you add Odell Beckham Jr. to that offense, man, that is now all of a sudden one of the best teams in the NFL. I like their defense, but for me, the Cowboys, the fact that they're going to have to play on the road in the playoffs, that's dangerous. The fact that they're not going to be the NFC East champion, they're going to have to play a road game, gives me a little reason for doubt. Answering some of these fantasy questions now. Should I play Cole Kmet with Fields out or head to the waiver wire for the tight end? Head to the waiver wire. I don't want you playing Cole Kmet with Nathan Peterman at starting quarterback. Nathan Peterman at starting quarterback against the Jets. I don't like Cole Kmet today. I don't like the Bears passing game. Go find a tight end on the waiver wire. You got 10 minutes. Debo, Ayuk, Juju, or Jeff Wilson at the flex. Wow, you got some great options in your lineup. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I'm going Jeff Wilson Jr. That's right. Not Debo, not Ayuk, not Juju, but Jeff Wilson Jr. Texans have the worst defense in the NFL against running backs. Jeff Wilson will be the number one running back today with Raheem Mostert out with injury. Love Jeff Wilson Jr. He would be my flex play. Can't believe I'm saying it given you have Debo. But that said, Jeff Wilson Jr. at flex is the play, Max. Oh, gotcha. I was at Music Studio 78. I was telling you about Odell Beckham. Do you think he's actually going to sign with the Cowboys? Yes, I do. I think that game on Thursday between the Giants and the Cowboys could have been called the OBJ Bowl. And I think the win for the Cowboys went a long way. Jerry Jones has let it be known he wants him to sign with the Cowboys. A lot of the Cowboys are currently recruiting Odell Beckham Jr. I think the writing's on the wall. OBJ wants to compete for another Super Bowl. The Cowboys are one of the best teams in the NFL. I really like it today. I really like Odell Beckham Jr. to sign with the Cowboys. Okay, user, you're back from looking at the waiver wire for a tight end. Hayden Hurst, Conklin, Seattle tight end are available. Who should I play? Okay, a couple thoughts. Love Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst would probably be the one I'd go with. But that said, Noah Fant may be someone you want to consider for this. The tight end position has done pretty well with Geno Smith. Noah Fant is a really talented tight end. Didn't get enough targets early in the year. He's starting to get better production the last few weeks. But of those options, I actually would go with Hayden Hurst. I think because Joe Burrow is going to have such a good passing day going up against the Tennessee Titans defense, Hayden Hurst is who I'd go with. Okay, James, sorry about that. Any trade targets for good playoff matchups? I'm not really looking for any trades right now, but if I were, DeAndre Hopkins is always going to be one I'm thinking of because in the final weeks of the season, I think he's going to get a lot of targets. By the way, Alex, Jeff Wilson Jr. in PPR. So DeAndre Hopkins is someone I definitely like. Again, Mark Andrews, he's actually not had great stats over the last couple of weeks. He may be someone where you're buying low and getting an opportunity to get on board with that. Don't like anyone on Buffalo. Don't like anyone in Carolina. For the Chicago Bears, nope. Cincinnati Bengals, if you can find a way to pick up one of their wide receivers, absolutely go for it. I think they're going to go on a run in the final weeks of the season. They go up against some really bad teams over the next few weeks in terms of secondary, so I think there's some opportunities there. Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns are a team you want to look out for. With Deshaun Watson back, everything in their offense all of a sudden becomes a much better option. I don't like Deshaun Watson as a person. Fuck Deshaun Watson as a person. That's out there now. But with that said, as quarterback in fantasy, he is definitely going to be an option you want to consider. I hate to say it, but he's going up against the Houston Texans next week. He's going to put up a massive day. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. The running game is going to continue to get better. Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb, you're already starting anyways, but with Deshaun Watson coming back, you may want to consider certain players on the Cleveland Browns. Cincinnati Bengals, I like. Dallas Cowboys, we mentioned it a moment ago, Odell Beckham Jr. He might be available in some waiver wire plays, so you might want to consider picking him up. James had another question. I'm in a keeper league. I'm in a keep two league, and I need to know who I should keep for next year. Oh, wow. First of all, Jamar Chase, period. End of conversation. You're keeping Jamar Chase. I would also keep Nick Chubb. I know there's a lot of tread on those tires, but Nick Chubb is just proven year in, year out that he's a consistent running back, a consistent top 5 running back. So I would keep Chubb and Chase. I'd actually drop Cooper Kupp. I don't know what the Rams are going to be next year. Is Sean McVay going to retire? Is Matthew Stafford going to be a relevant quarterback? I think Cooper Kupp could see a fall off in his production next year. Tyreek Hill or Parsons. I don't know who Parsons is, but I'll take Tyreek Hill every time. I don't know who Parsons is in this one, Music Studio 78, but I like Tyreek Hill. Miles Sanders or Samaje P. Ryan, not even a question. Miles Sanders, not even close. P. Ryan going up against a really good Tampa Bay Bucs run defense, and Miles Sanders should have a good day for the Philadelphia Eagles. We have 5 minutes left on our TikTok Live, 5 minutes before the 1 p.m. window kicks off, so let's answer some questions. Dameon Pierce or Godwin at flex? I'd go Godwin. Suck it at Fritas. Great name. I like Pierce in the I like Godwin in this one. I like Godwin at the flex. Continuing to answer your fantasy football questions for the final couple of minutes. Follow us on Twitter at Sports Fumble and follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Butt Fumble Sports. Butt Fumble Sports is a new sports content network. We want to give and empower the sports fan. We believe you could be on-air talent, ask questions, engage with us, or if you think you could be on-air talent, feel free to reach out and we'll give you the opportunity. With Fields out, should I start Jimmy G or Brissett? I'm going with Jimmy G. I like where the 49ers offense is at. He's got so many weapons. I think he could get at least 2 passing touchdowns. Jacoby Brissett, his last day as a starter for the Browns. Not sure what I'm going to get out of them. Is TJ Hawkinson a must-start at tight end 1 for the rest of the season? I'm not someone who automatically locks someone in for a starter every week just because they had a good week. That said, I really like what I'm seeing from Hawkinson, but I'm always going to monitor week to week who their matchups are, who they're playing against, how those teams do against tight ends. But TJ Hawkinson has really fit well into the Vikings offense. He gives a great middle of the field option. If Justin Jefferson is on the outside, I really like Hawkinson on the inside. Tyler Huntley or Tom Brady, Music Studio 78. I don't know what you're doing there. Tom Brady is the play. It's not even a question. Victor, White, Sutton, Montgomery, Devontae, flex pick one. Tough. I like Cortland Sutton, but I'm not crazy about him. I'd probably go Devontae Smith. Rashad White or Devontae Smith are probably the two I'd lean towards. I think Sutton will be targeted. I like Sutton over 4.5 receptions, but I don't think he'll get as many receiving yards. So I like White or Devontae. Waddle or Higgins? I like Higgins. I think Higgins is going to have a big day against the Tennessee Titans secondary. I like Higgins more than I like Waddle. Ben Moore, thank you I appreciate it. Appreciate the gifts, appreciate the love. Who has the most interceptions of the season? I'm going to guess it's Josh Allen. I might be wrong, but Josh Allen, I feel like, has thrown a ton of picks this year. So if it's not Matthew Stafford and not Matt Ryan by sheer fact that they've been out with injury, I'm going to guess Music Studio 78 that Josh Allen currently leads the NFL in interceptions. Correct me if I'm wrong. Brewer Bowie, since Jacobs is coming off a calf injury, should I start Jacobs, White, or Connor? I would definitely start James Conner in that situation. Josh Jacobs has not played well on the road this year. Only one rushing touchdown on the road. He's going to Seattle, not crazy about it. Connor playing a Chargers defense that's terrible against the run. James Carter is the play. Jack, you must have just joined the show. Jeff Wilson Jr. is one of my favorite players today. I think he's going to have a massive day. Texans defense, one of the worst in the NFL against the running game. Jeff Wilson Jr., I really like today. Geno Smith against the Raiders or Kyler Murray against the Chargers. I'm going with Geno Smith. The Raiders are one of the worst teams against the pass. Geno Smith has been really good at home. Kyler Murray, I wonder how much he's going to be able to run around with that hamstring injury. So I'm not crazy about Kyler Murray. I like Geno Smith against the Raiders, Clark. That would be my start. Only 2 minutes left before NFL kickoffs. Continue to ask your questions. We're here for it. Should I start Rashad White or Keenan Allen? I've been hearing a lot about both. How is White going to go off? So Leonard Fournette not playing in this game. I think White's going to have a good game, but I have to start Keenan Allen. In his career with Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen has been one of the most, if not the most, targeted wide receivers in the NFL. With Keenan Allen healthy, I've got to start Allen. So it's Allen in a flex play. I think White will do well, but I like Keenan Allen is the player I'd pick of the two. But Fumble Sports, we want to democratize sports media, empower the fans out there. If you think that you know sports, football, soccer, baseball, I don't care. If you think you know sports, reach out to us. Hit us up at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at But Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you think you could be on air talent, we'll give you the opportunity. But Fumble Sports, democratizing sports media, making sure every fan can be on air talent. Who has the worst defense on offense this year? Sorry, Music Studio, don't quite understand the question. Feel free to hit us back up with that one. Wide receiver 3, Boyd, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Darius Slayton, Jacoby Myers, or Kadarius Toney. It's Boyd. It's not even a question, Clark. Boyd is the guy. He's the best option of all that group. Love him in that Bengals offense, especially with Jamar Chase out. Over 1,000 likes in our 1 hour on this TikTok live. Appreciate all of you joining us. If you have more questions, hit us up at Sports Fumble on Twitter, at But Fumble Sports on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. We're a new sports content company, a new sports network. We want to democratize sports media, empower the fans. We believe that you are the ones people should be focused on. If you think you know sports, reach out to us. We want to hear your take, hear your opinions. Appreciate all of you joining us for the past hour. Again, we will be back on Tuesday. Joining us on our Twitter space at Sports Fumble. We're going to go through the entire slate of games for NFL Week 13. But for now, good luck today. Good luck on your bets. Appreciate you joining us. Good luck, NFL Week 12.